Come on, thing, behave. Carol Boyce John, morning. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Rutrude, morning to you. Natalie F, morning. Wazid, morning, sir. Patricia Reed, Brookman Gangadin, morning, guys. Arlene Lewis, morning. It's getting frustrated me today, boy. Let's see, Daniela Williams, morning. Could use this thing, boy. So, just give me a sec here, folks. This device for Facebook is stressing me out. What can I use? Neil Francois, always present. Morning, sir. Thank you so much. It's good to be back. Ruben Rogers, morning to you. Shelton Lewis, morning. Macaroni Tony, Jackie Graham, morning to you guys. Glenn Richardson, morning, sir. J Dimples 66, David Clark, morning. No, Roxanne, I decided to make a quick run to the market. And I wasn't expecting there to be. I don't usually go to the market on a, period. But there was some stuff I needed to get this morning, and yeah, market in Arima was crazy. PF Cutters, morning. Adaremi X, morning to you. Marlon Blaze, Gerald Pascal Manswell, morning, sir. Priscilla Holder, morning out there, morning to you. Udani, Holly Legol, Dexter Thwaites, Phyllis Farrell, Gabriel Phillip, Trevor Carter, Nelson, morning to all of you guys. I see Mr. Winston Bachelor is on. He says last week was a great week for politics. For who? Leon Joseph, morning. Bina, Felix, morning. Ria Ed, morning. Let's see who I have on Facebook. Carol Myers, my good friend, morning, Carol. Gemma White Isaac, morning. Estra Blake, morning. Estra Philomena Collins, morning to you. Good morning to His Excellency, President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady Marissa Keegan. Sarah Richards, morning. Denise Cummings, Joycelyn Small White, Emelina Harvey. Who else we have there? Shireen Jack, morning. Morning, Diane Charles, thank you so much. Sandra Watson, Stephen Martell, good morning, sir. Christopher Siffy, Jennifer Dorset, Alan Reno, Angela Kati, Donna Seeley, Anne-Marie Clark, Marilyn Wanza Cloud, Sherwin Humphrey, morning, sir. Alison Boyce, Carol Bucco, morning, Carol. Carol, you're still outside? Carol Bucco. Rudolph Barnett, Florence Bazzi, Devan Ramnathan, Jennifer Dorset, Adria Morrison, morning to all of you guys. So good to be back. As always, my trip was a bit, always too short, but enjoyable nevertheless. Daryl Nanton, Sherry, Bartholomew, Jennifer Goodluck, Teresa, Thomas, morning to all of you guys. Yes, Carol says she's still outside. Dandy Sandiford, morning. Let's see here. Sholan Bodhi, morning. Right. So indeed, so many things happened while I was outside. Thank goodness it wasn't, extreme as sometimes when I leave. Budget, of course, was read. Mixed views on that. Some goodies. Some people think it's some goodies. Some people were expecting more of an election budget. And because it wasn't considered entirely an election budget, there are those who believe that Mr. Imbert may have one more budget left for 2025 because the Prime Minister, the latest that the election can be called is in November of 2025, right? So there's the belief that the Prime Minister would run the full gamut for 2025. There are a few things. There was something one of the things I wanted to touch on first while I was outside And a few times that I sought to look in to see what was happening, right? There was an article in the newspaper about the purchase of body cameras for the police. And the police service intended to spend $25 million to purchase cameras. And let me just get this here. The usual suspects.
So, yo, what's that Caribbean song that goes?
So let me get this here. The likes of Philip Alexander. Right. You know, all the bright people, the people who figure they have the answers to everything. So the usual suspects took issue with the budget of $25 million to purchase body cameras. They want the body cameras, but $25 million and talking about kickback and his election year and who had to get kicked back and cut back and all kind of nonsense, right? Before they're doing their research, so they figured that $25 million to purchase 3,000 body cameras is a lot of money. As if the only thing you're doing is purchasing the body cameras. So you don't have any back-end support in terms of storage of the footage from the camera. You don't need any back-end support in terms of how do you tie in the footage from the body cameras to the national security grid in terms of the operation center and all of that, right? You don't need that. So if it is that the cameras, anything happened to the cameras, you don't need any type of warranty, you don't need any technical support, none of those things. I'm going to play the first one for you. So let me just get this here. All right. All right, just let me get this here and I just connect. All right, this is the first one. Stefan Rees from Synergy TV, who has a morning show called Breaking Dawn, right? And sometimes he seems to be an echo chamber for Philip Alexander, because Philip Alexander was the first one that I saw decided to talk about you could go on Amazon and you could get a body camera on Amazon for less than 300 US or something, and some you could get 100 and something US dollars. So apparently they expected the commissioner of police to go on Amazon and order 3,000, put 3,000 cameras in her basket, right? And then just check out 3,000 body cameras, and they come to Trinidad. When it's delivered, she just simply distributes. She say, hey, well, let's share out that 3,000 cameras to the various police stations there. No training. We don't need to spend any money on training to show the officers how to use the body cameras, because each body camera will come with an instruction manual. So just let the officers read the instruction manual. Remember, it's not a body camera that is assigned to a specific officer, right? You come to work, you put on your body camera, you go out, you do your duty, you serve your time, and then when you come back in, you take off the body camera, you put it on, you put it down, and then whoever come in after you will put it on. So it's not a case of you give everybody one, they read the manual, they know how to use it. So every time somebody has to use it, they have to sit down and read the instruction manual. This is when you listen to people like Philip Alexander and Stefan Rees and others who are pushing that nonsense, you get the impression that's how it works, right? Listen to Stefan Rees.
So out here, and I take in that headline where the TTPS will get 3,000 cameras, 4K body cameras at a cost of $25 million. Now, maths is a simple thing, right? So take 25 million and divide it by 3,000. So we will be paying $8,333 per camera. And that making sense to somebody, right? If you go on Amazon, if you Google 4K cameras, body cameras, regardless of brand or wherever, you will see that most of those cameras, not even 200 US, right? They're not even over 200 US. Some of them is 149 US, some is 157, if we're talking 4K, right? So no matter what kind of 4K camera you buy, it could never come up to $8,333 per camera. I guess election coming soon, and Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li, the whole kickback posse, in full motion. All have a good day.
And you know the fully dance will run with that, right? Because they're bright. And they know. So go on Amazon, order 3,000 cameras and call that judge. And if it is the week after you start using the cameras, one of them goes bad, what you do? Call Jeff Bezos and tell him, hey, I bought 3,000 cameras from me and a couple of them are working. That's how it's supposed to work, right? So the footage, how do you store the footage? Because if one camera is used, let's say twice during the day or 3 times by different officers, right? And you're storing footage and all of that. You gotta make sure you have a backup. Because if something happens, there's a police shooting, the camera records the shooting, that case related to that matter mightn't call for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. How do we ensure that the footage from that camera is stored somewhere so that when the case is called, let's say it was that a police officer is charged for a shooting, that when that case is called, that we still have the footage from that camera 5 years later, 10 years later. But listening to these guys, you get the impression you don't need that. It's just a put on body camera, so you will record the day later, and if something happened, you will just review the footage for that day, and then what, we delete it? That's how it works. Let me read something for them. Since these guys don't seem to understand how to do research. Look at this first one right here, right? So they're complaining about 25 million for 3,000 cameras. 25 million was worked out about 3.5 million US. I read in here for you, July 26, 2024. Contract approved for new body cameras for Fresno Police Department. The contract also covers data storage, a records management system, software upgrades, and maintenance. Right. Fresno, California. This is this year, right? June. The Fresno County Council is moving forward with a contract to supply the Fresno Police Department with new body cameras. The $18 million 5-year contract with Axon Enterprises passed unanimously at Thursday's meeting. 18 million US, right? So when we multiply 18 million by, let's say, 7, right? You see where we're going with that? That's over 100 million, 120 million TT dollars. We have 556 cameras that we pay for as we expanded, and they allowed us without going under contract to have about 100 new cameras. So we have been using them free of charge, and now the time has come to square up with them and actually purchase cameras for expansion and pay for what we've been actually using. So they have 556 cameras in use, which they're now going to pay for, and they're ordering another 100. So that's 656 cameras, body cameras, $18 million US. This is in California, this year. 18 million US for 656 cameras. But they complained in Trinidad, 25 million TT, 3.5 million US for 3,000 cameras. Yeah, that robbery, that kickback, that corruption. Okay. Let's know. We're going again. I think there's another one. So let me get it here. Yes. Supervisors approved first year funding for LASD body-worn camera program, the Los Angeles, California. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors has voted to transfer $25.5 million US to the Sheriff's Department for implementation of the new body-worn camera program. The motion was authored by Supervisor Janice Hahn and co-authored by Supervisor Catherine Baga, and will cover the first year of the program at 5 stations across the county as early as October. Body-worn cameras are an important tool for transparency and will give us a clearer understanding of interactions between our deputies and members of the public. Over the past 4 years, the board has set aside a total of $35 million to purchase body-worn cameras, again, US dollars, right? So we're going again. To build trust between our law enforcement officers and community members, transparency is key. Supervisor Baga said allocating funds for body-worn cameras to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is a critical step to rebuild relationships and accountability. And because of persistence from the Board of Supervisors and the commitment of communities, 5,200 deputies and security officers will have access to these necessary devices. So the motion approved today authorizes $25.5 million of the funding set aside to be given to the Sheriff's Department for the first year of the body-worn camera program. This will allow the Sheriff's Department to move forward with implementing the cameras in October, starting with 5 stations: West Hollywood, Lancaster, Lakewood, Industry, and the Centurion Station. The next phase will include 10 additional stations beginning January 1. 25 million for the first year. 5,200 cameras. 25 million US. Do the math. Do the math. And see what that works out to. Plenty more than 3.5 million US for 3,000 cameras, right? They're spending 25 million for 5,200 US. But it's corruption and kickback. Somebody, I heard Stefan Rees there talking about that. And then the same Philip Alexander talking that nonsense too about Amazon, and they could go on Amazon. Apparently, that's how we just do it. Just go on Amazon. The commissioner's credit card probably has a limit of $3.5 million at least, and she could go on Amazon, or maybe she should order a few thousand cameras or a couple hundred cameras every week, or every cycle of her credit card that her limit would allow. And these are the people who telling you put them in office. These are the people who have the answers to Trinidad and Tobago's challenges, and these are the people who are the alternative to the People's National Movement, right? And just remember who he supported, who he has endorsed. It's not Keith Rowley and the PNM. So look forward to more of this as we go forward, right? They know they need only to put these things in the public domain, and the folly dons will run with it. No research, nothing of the sort. Yeah, boy, you see they're spending 25 million for body camera, for 3,000 cameras. Yeah, they only want a thief. Okay. Moving right along in today's Sunday's Express. At least they have one article that making sense. Central Bank to improve system linked to $2.6 billion discrepancy. The Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago has stated that errors in recording transactions using the electronic check clearing system, which Auditor General Jaywanti Ramdas identified as the cause of the $2.6 billion revenue discrepancy, have highlighted areas for improvement. This is the Central Bank saying this, not the Minister of Finance, not the Ministry of Finance. This is the Express reporting on the Central Bank's latest progress report. The errors, the Central Bank stated, provided opportunities to further formalize internal processes and improve communication with external parties. In its latest progress report for the strategic plan 2021-22 to 2025-2026, the Central Bank stated that experiences from the introduction of the ECCS and the document management system helped in the plan's consolidation of work processes. The Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago and the commercial banks successfully introduced the ECCS, electronic check cashing system, in 2023 as a way of streamlining check processing by utilizing digital images in place of relying solely on the time-consuming manual inspections of all checks. At the same time, the bank learned that errors... Hold on, folks. Let me just get this thing messing up. Let me just do this one. Right. I continue. The Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, right, we reached it. At the same time, the bank learned that errors in recording of transactions during the early introductory phase of the ECCS provided opportunities to further formalize internal processes and develop communication with external parties, including the Treasury, representing the government of Trinidad and as the Central Bank's major client, and commercial banks as the other ECCS participants. Comprehensive internal reviews, dialogues with the Treasury, banks, and one external agency to date, a cabinet-appointed investigatory committee, have helped in this bolstering of processes and communication. Notably absent from the list was the Auditor General's Department. The ECCS featured prominently in the special report of the Auditor General on the public accounts for the financial year 2023. The 86-page document was published as a follow-up examination of the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of TNT for 2023, which sparked contention between Ramdas and the Finance Minister. The $2.6 billion understatement was caused by a system malfunction at the Central Bank, the report stated. Kindly indicate the source of the problem with the ECCS or the root cause of the problem causing the understatement of revenue by $2.6 billion, the Auditor General stated in a management letter issued on July 24th. In February 2023, the Central Bank experienced a system malfunction which resulted in erroneously overstated debit advices generated. Subsequently, the CBTT corrected the inaccuracies by issuing reversal credit advices. However, the Treasury Division does not have a record of the receipt. As a result, the error was unknown to the Inland Revenue Division, and the debit advices were processed to replenish the sum initially debited from the IRD refund bank accounts, the Finance Ministry stated. The Ministry of Finance, however, added that systems have been put in place to prevent a recurrence of the problem. It goes on to say the electronic, the bank, in the conduct of its business, is bound by its statutory obligations and the confidentiality provision in Section 56 of the Central Bank Act. In this regard, specific details of the request are needed for consideration by the bank. Central Bank Governor Alvin Hillier responded to a letter dated June 26. So here it is that in their progress report, the Central Bank is saying, yes, there was a $2.6 billion error, and we corrected it, right? The Central Bank is saying this. You think you will see everybody who's talking about billions missing, and they can't account for it, and Ember thief, and Rowley thief, and the government thief, and all these billions, the fully done keep talking about. You think any of them going to refer to this article in today's Express? No. I wonder if Jaiwanti has seen the progress report of the Central Bank, which identifies and speaks to this $2.6 billion error. Her auditors, as we would have read, were satisfied with the documents that they would have seen in the second round of audits that they would have done with the Ministry of Finance with respect to this particular matter, where it took them 4 months this time, as opposed to the 7 days that the Auditor General gave them back in April. And this time, with 4 months to do thorough inspection of all documents, the auditors, the senior auditors who she sent to the Ministry of Finance were satisfied. And they indicated this at the exit meeting with the Ministry of Finance. So they got, she not happy, right? She wants to go into the Central Bank and inspect and see for herself. And even after that, I wait to see what would be the next saga she's going to come with. But of course, you know, the fully done will say, well, all that time passed, the Central Bank had more than enough time to cook the books and create false documents and so on to make it look like $2.6 billion that it was an error. That is what they will say. They refuse to accept facts. Refuse. Cognitive dissonance, because they've held on to this lie for so long that for now that you're getting documentary evidence to show that Mr. Imbut was correct, that the country's revenue position was understated, and efforts to fix it by the ministry so that the record, the permanent record that is the Auditor General's report would reflect that for perpetuity, they can't accept that. So it doesn't matter. All the evidence that comes forward, and even after the Auditor General, whenever she decides to, I don't know if she's still on vacation, whenever she decides to come back and go and make the appointment to go to the Central Bank and inspect the system and look at the original documents showing the error, I want to see what is she going to say after that, if we will hear anything, right? You see the newspapers following up on that? It was a hot topic before. How come they're not calling on the Auditor General to say when she will be back from vacation and how soon can we expect this matter to be resolved? But they have plenty to say about Mr. Imbuto. He bullying the Auditor General and he trying to have his way and this and that and all of this foolishness. Nobody's talking about this. Today's Express, page 10. Page 10. And I'm sure the Central Bank Progress Report is probably online. So if you don't want to read the Express, you could go and read the actual report itself that speaks to the error and the efforts made to fix it. I wait to see what the Auditor General is going to say. So we had, budget was read on Monday. As I said before, there were those who were expecting a election budget. There were some goodies in there, but I wouldn't classify it as an election budget. I still haven't had an opportunity and occasion to peruse it in great detail. But just cursory glance, to use Farley's word, there's some good stuff inside there, right? And some of the other strategies and some of the other policies that have been articulated, once it is that it could be realized, that would be good for the country. But the leader of the opposition, in her response on Friday, as was to be expected, utilized her time. First of all, she criticized the minister for his 5 hours and I think 13 minutes presentation. And she promised she wouldn't come and torture the country with another 5 hours and 13 minutes presentation. So she came with about 3.5 hours. part of which she used to read out the UNC's manifesto. Now, I thought the response to the government, to the budget, or the budget statement, is really to poke holes, to show up any shortcomings for the population to understand, right? Because if you think, well, this is not a good budget, this is why we think it's not a good budget, and you itemize and you poke holes. Instead, she utilized that time, as I said, to come and present UNC's manifesto and then make all kind of foolish allegations. The use of acronyms for the letters PNM. She spoke about calling for the authorities to investigate pedophile ring in the People's National Movement. As you know, the fully done, like one of the acronyms they use for PNM is the Pedophile National Movement. They're making claims about this, the SAPGA report by the, I can't remember the guy's name. The report that they would have commissioned when they were in office, and it supposedly spoke about Akil Chambers, even though the report was produced 1 year before Akil was killed. I don't understand that. And since then, there have been claims about the late Ken Valley and other persons having been involved in that matter. But she came on Friday, and rather than use her time for that specific purpose to talk about the budget and to tell the population if she has issues with anything in the budget, why it don't make sense, she instead used her time to be typical Kamala Persad-Bissessar. I must say, I would have expected the speaker to pull her up on some of those things. But she has the audacity and the temerity to accuse the PNM of, or certain persons in the PNM, she didn't call names, or by and large the party, of being involved in pedophilia, right? And she's calling for the authorities to investigate. But yet still, this is the woman who has been seen in pictures, many pictures for that matter. In fact, on Friday, as I was driving up Abercrombie Street on Friday morning heading to my class, I saw a particular counselor somewhere down in South, yeah? Well-dressed, standing on the pavement outside the parliament, heeding the call from his leader to show up, for them to show up in their numbers, to support their leader. And I'm saying, look at that, this individual who has been seen in many pictures with Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, who has been accused, or who stands accused of trying to groom a 15-year-old schoolboy from his district. There has been documentary evidence in the form of screenshots of WhatsApp messages that he sent to the 15-year-old boy, screenshots of pictures, naked pictures that he sent to the 15-year-old boy, screenshots of FaceTime video chats and video calls in his efforts to try and establish a relationship with this 15-year-old schoolboy, lying on a bed naked and telling the boy, you see, something to the effect, you see how I'm hard for you, or some nonsense like that. And the boy's mother would have screenshot those messages and sent it to, well, aside from official members of the UNC, it would have gotten into the hands of the UNC Cabal Facebook page, who published these screenshots, showing you the extent. And I am certain, I know members of the UNC hierarchy are very familiar with this Facebook page. Very much so, because many of them have referenced it from time to time on the Monday Night Forum, and wondering how is it that this entity is getting all of this information, most of the time which turns out to be accurate. She has never spoken to that issue. In fact, that information came out before they did screening for the last local government election last year. It was in the public domain, but yet still they screened this individual, approved him as candidate, and it being a UNC stronghold, he's back in office as councillor again, free to use his office to groom young boys, which he seems to have an affinity for. The leader of the opposition has never spoken to that, has never sought to condemn it, but instead seems to be encouraging that foolishness by the fact that you were aware of this information. And even if she may not have been aware at the time, others in the party's hierarchy were aware of it, because the boy's mother reached out to them, complaining. She went to the police and so on to report this individual. And he said, well, he didn't know the boy was 15 years old. Nonsense. The boy going to school. You're sicko. You're sicko, but you want to accuse PNM of being involved in pedophilia. But right under your own damn nose, right under your own nose, you have a councillor who trying to use his office to have relations with a 15-year-old boy. And his mother's cries have gone unanswered. You have a man sitting down in the parliament who is currently the subject of a police investigation into human trafficking and prostitution. You know the ages of these young women? Any condemnation of that? Yeah, but you continue to applaud him. And he has hopes and aspirations of being the next Minister of Works and Infrastructure, or the next Minister of Works and Transport. But you want to come and stand up in the parliament when you should be talking about the budget, to talk rubbish about calling on the authorities, right? And all this against the backdrop of her lies, trying to claim that when she was in office, that her government brought so much legislation, so many pieces of legislation to deal with these situations. They brought legislation, but it was just a farce and a ruse, because you debated legislation, but failed to have the legislation proclaimed. So it's the same thing they did with the procurement legislation that they brought in 2013. This convoluted piece of legislation, which had it passed then, would have crippled the public sector in terms of procurement. Because even with changes that have been made by this administration, the current legislation, even after a year, is proving to be problematic, proving to be challenging for state enterprises to be able to engage in proper procurement. With persons, entities that have been doing business with the government for years still unable to register, or still waiting for registration and pre-qualification, which limits the number of vendors available to state enterprises to meet with the requirements of the legislation, that for certain things, you need to have 3 quotes and 4 quotes and 5 quotes. But if you don't have enough people on the registry to provide quotes, what are you supposed to do? Look, I just saw last week an advertisement in the newspapers from the Procurement Regulator's Office, where they are inviting persons and calling on persons and basically pleading with vendors for a variety of services to please come and register. Register on the OPR registry, because we have a shortage of vendors in this area and that area, about 10 different areas. They have a shortage of vendors for. So if it is the OPR itself is pleading and reaching out to persons who are involved in these type of services to come and register on the registry, what does that tell you? That when it is state enterprises need to utilize these services and there is a shortage of persons which the OPR recognizes, what are they supposed to do? If when you go on the registry, you're looking for a particular service and they only have one vendor who is registered, what are you supposed to do? Go and find others who are involved in that service and tell them, hey, you need to go and register with the OPR so that you could bid. After more than a year, tells you some of these people they're probably fed up and they say, hey, look, we ain't going through that stress, because there are still challenges and teething problems with the legislation. More than a year later, that is proving problematic. But and this is what they call the watered down legislation. So if that is watered down and causing all these problems, imagine if what they introduced in 2013 was made law, what the problems would have been. But as I said, that was just a farce and a ruse. You debate the legislation and you put it on a shelf, so that if you lose office, you can come and say, well, we brought the legislation and we brought legislation. Did it go past the parliament? The same thing with the Children's Authority Bill. It was this administration that operationalized the Children's Authority. And I heard Stuart Young mention in his contribution when he responded to the opposition leader on Friday and reminded us that notwithstanding the fact that they brought legislation with respect to dealing with children and protecting children from predators, that shortly after they demitted office in 2015, you had the man who was in charge of the department that was responsible for drafting this legislation and bringing it, piloting it in the parliament and debating it and so on, former Attorney General under them, who is now before the courts, that he came and sued the state for shortcomings in the very same legislation that he was in charge of. He was in charge of the department that drafted the legislation. He would have piloted these bills in the parliament. They commented, you all debated it, and it was good legislation then. But as soon as you leave office, it's suddenly bad legislation. All of a sudden, you realize that there are issues with the legislation. There are shortcomings in the legislation, and you decide to sue the state for millions of dollars. But put them back. But you come to stand up and talk about all the legislation, the packages of legislation that they brought. To help who? Who did it help? Because right now, the only person that helping is your boy. So all the legislation that you all brought and some of which you passed. Case in point, the Administration of Justice Bill, which was the parent bill that gave birth to Section 34. The only clause that they proclaimed in that legislation, which was supposed to be such good legislation, Section 34. And what came out of that? Right? We didn't know. Really? Senior Counsel Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Senior Counsel Anand Ramlogan, and you had about 3 or 4 other lawyers sitting in the cabinet. You all are supposed to read the legislation. Every time she comes to Parliament now, she's complaining about how when they have to debate bills and they only got the package of legislation 2 days before and 1 day before, and they expect them to read 100 and something pages in 1 day and 2 days. She complaining about that. And that they have not had the opportunity to study the legislation and to identify what are the challenges so that they can prepare for the debate and do their research. So when you all brought the Administration of Justice Bill, you didn't do the same thing. You all were the government, so you had more than ample time to study it. And nobody came across Section 34 and saw what the implications of Section 34 would have been, right? None of you bright senior counsel, self-given. None of them saw that. But I read for you all an article a few months ago, $2.2 million that was paid for a CARICOM national who was serving a life sentence in Trinidad and Tobago prison for drug trafficking, right? That he was supposed to be a beneficiary of Section 34. And failing that, with the discovery of Section 34 and it having to be repealed, what did they do? They had to find another route. So $2.2 million was paid by this individual so that he could get a presidential pardon, which he successfully got. And I read the details of that article for you all, and maybe I'll speak to it at another time, maybe, to remind those who are new to the page and who may not remember it or who are not aware of it. Of this $2.2 million that, according to the article, was paid to senior government officials to facilitate a presidential pardon. Presidential pardons which are recommended by the Mercy Committee. Who are the members making up the Mercy Committee? It's not average Joe on the street who makes those decisions. It's specific officials, government officials who make up. And I think there are 4 members of the committee who are selected by either the president or on the recommendation of Prime Minister or something like that, right? But all of them, when it is the individuals who approach, they say, well, here, what now? You need to, based on the original offer that was made, that's not enough because remember, we have some other people to convince. So you need to pay up the ante. $2.2 million or almost 15 million TT dollars was paid for this individual who was serving a life sentence. So you know, for it to be a life sentence, it's significant cocaine we're talking about it. He got a presidential pardon. Today he's back home in his country, living the free life. Free life. So all of this, when she wants to talk about they brought legislation, yes, you brought legislation, but with ulterior motives. Up to now, they've never addressed that issue. The Express, I think it was his newspaper that ran the story. They covered it once and that was it. Nobody else talked about it. It has not been revisited. And some of the very same actors who that article speaks to are hoping that the UNC would win office in 2025 and they could come back and repeat it and do the same thing. So even when they weren't stealing public monies to enrich themselves, friends, and families, they were using the law to be able to get money from people, to extort money to their own advantage. But complaining and talking about corruption, and this government is the most corrupt government ever. I continue to tell you all 10 years on, we still don't have the full facts of all the corruption that took place between 2010 to 2015. And I know the supporters don't like us to go back 2010 to 2015. Oh, we're always going back in the past and rehashing. But you all like to go back 5 and 6 decades to tell us about O'Halloran and Privat and all of that foolishness. So it's okay for you all to go back 50 and 60 years, but we mustn't go back 10 and 15, which is of more recent vintage. All those players from 5 and 6 decades ago are deceased, right? Pushing up daisies or dust in the wind, and have been so for many years. We're dealing with people who are still sitting in the parliament today and are asking you to give them a second chance. Another go at the cherry, as they say, right? Another bite at the cherry. So we are very well well placed to go back to 2010 to 2015 when these players are still very much active and involved in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago in a significant way and looking to come back for a second round. So when you all want to talk about Privat, go and find where Privat buried now. Huh? Go and find where O'Halloran buried. Go and talk to them. Go and dig up. Since you all like to engage in political necromancy, because your leader's specialty is going in the political cemetery and digging up corpses and bringing them back to life, resurrection, playing Jesus. I do that. But we are very well within our rights, and to be referencing 2010 to 2015 to remind persons of why it is these persons must never be allowed to come back in. And I keep saying that should Kamla Persad-Bissessar be given an opportunity next year to return as Prime Minister, understand that the only options available to her to populate a cabinet and to populate the boards of state enterprises and so on, and to fill positions of high commissioners and ambassadors and so on, would be for her to scrape the bottom of the barrel. And even the bottom of the barrel would be too good, right? She has to go to the gutter, the murky lagoon, to find the worst of the worst. Because according to Rodney Charles, nobody of integrity wants to associate themselves with the UNC. Nobody of integrity. Because even if you have an ounce of integrity, when the rest of them start to put their hand in the cookie jar, you will get caught up in the whirlwind. And your reputation will be tarnished because you chose to associate yourself with these people. So when you can support a man who's on $1 million bail for fraud, conspiracy, misbehavior in public office, and he could stand up in the parliament on Friday and challenge the budget and challenge the Minister of Energy, and do so with gusto, something very wrong. Somebody like him would have never been allowed on the PNM side. Yeah? But he stand up in the parliament, audacity, want to quote documents. But right now you're before the courthouse, and you have hopes and aspirations of becoming this country's next Minister of Energy. He's the shadow Minister of Energy. Only a set of misrepresentations that he come with on Friday. Stuart Young made the point prior to his contribution, which he couldn't answer and couldn't respond to, that all the things they have said about Nicolas Maduro and Delcy Rodriguez and others over the last few years, Minister Young would have made the revelation that every time he goes to Caracas, whether it's to sign something or to engage in negotiations for the various gas projects that are supposed to start coming on stream in 2027, the question is always asked of him by Maduro and others: going on with the opposition in your country? Why are they attacking us so? And I have been telling you all that for months, that if you all think Mr. Maduro and others in his administration are not aware of the things that are being said by Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC against him and members of his administration, you're sorely mistaken. They're taking note. There's an ambassador here, and his job is to report to Caracas. So they are fully aware. And that is why Mr. Young said, if you all put God out of your collective thoughts to either choose not to vote or to go and vote for these people, understand that all of these projects that we are looking forward to, these gas projects that should get us back to the heights of gas production in the pre-COVID era, 4.2 billion scuffs and so on, and even more than that. And with a renegotiated Atlantic LNG deal that is going to see us getting a bigger share of the pie, that all of these gas projects, which the country is depending on, which will improve our foreign exchange situation, that people keep complaining, you can't get 200 US in the bank when you want to travel. I just traveled. I didn't go to the bank to get any US. And I had access to as much as I needed as I was outside. Right? I had no complaints. But we don't want a cashless society. No. But when you go to the US, most of the people prefer the swipe card. They're taking the dollar, they're taking the cash, But why put yourself through that? No, I know there are some people who don't have credit cards and may not have that facility. But the banks seem to be very lenient these days in giving everybody and their dog a credit card, regardless of the limit. But for those persons who have credit cards, most of them don't have to complain about they can't get 200 US. But the gas deals, the projects that are due to come on stream, Coquina Mannequin, Dragon, Manatee, and as Mr. Young would have revealed in the parliament, they are still negotiating Loran, notwithstanding the fact that there has been a delinking of Loran and Manatee, Manatee being on the Trinidad side. Loran has 7.2 trillion cubic feet of gas, proven gas. And if it is that you have the infrastructure right there, All you need is just approval to go ahead and monetize it. But of course, we know the sanctions and so on that is causing a bit of problems. But minus those sanctions, the infrastructure is going to be right there. So whether it's Maduro sitting in Miraflores or whoever else that comes in after, Venezuela needs at least 150 billion US to pay debts. So, and that gas is basically money in the ground. So who you think they're going to give first dibs to? Not the entity country that has the partnerships with the major energy companies and has the infrastructure right there. First dibs. So when I hear David Lee stands up in the parliament on Friday to talk about, we want to know what concessions and what did the government give to the energy companies for these final investment decisions and so on, and with the renegotiation of Atlantic LNG, we want to know what did the country give up. Why don't tell us what you all gave up? But we already know what you all gave up between 2010 to 2015, which has significantly impacted our revenues, right? No taxes until 2027 as an incentive for these energy companies to come and look for in-border gas and in-border oil. But yet still last year, Heritage had the largest production. 68% of total oil production last year for Trinidad and Tobago came from Heritage Petroleum, because that is the focus. So while they want to advocate that we should reopen Petrochin the old way, the old model, and just have exploration and production as a department, today, under the restructuring by this administration, exploration and production is a whole company. That is their focus. Their core business is to find oil and market it. Not some little department in a corner somewhere. And the focus is on the refinery. But listen to his leader talking on Friday that put her back in office and she will reopen the refinery. Populist strategies and populist policies, because you know, for some people that's sounding good, but they will never speak about the intricacies involved in that and the challenges in doing so. Where is the money going to come from to do that? It has already been established that you probably need at least $1 billion US. They have said it. In trying to pour cold water on all of the entities that are seeking to purchase the refinery. First question they ask, why they want to come and spend $1 billion on that refinery? $1 billion US at least. But if you're saying that it doesn't make sense to invest that $1 billion, then why are you going to do it? And where is that $1 billion US going to come from? The Treasury? Like the $7 billion US that they took from the Treasury for the Point Fortin highway so that they wouldn't have to account to anybody. They could spend the money how they want to, rather than take a loan from one of the many lending agencies. But of course, that loan would have come with conditions with respect to transparency and accountability, and we don't want that. Because if you have that, it's more difficult to thief. So we take it from the Treasury. So is that the plan? But when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa continues to articulate that put her back in office, and she intends rather that she will introduce no new taxes, and she's going to cut current tax rates. So the corporate tax rate will drop from 35% that it is now for banks and 30% for other corporate entities earning over $1 million in profits a year. She's going to cut that to 18%. So that's 17% loss with the banks who seem to be making the most amount of profits in this country. That's 17% loss of revenue because you plan to cut taxes for them. And you're telling us, well, when we cut the taxes, that the tax savings, that they would use that to invest in their businesses and hire more people because we want to create 55,000 jobs. You really feel the bank going to do that? You really think they're going to do that? Republic Bank is going to do what? Open branches? More branches? We've seen over the last few years, the banks have been doing the opposite. Royal Bank has closed down several of its branches in an attempt to push people towards using online banking and the various electronic services that, while they continue to condemn the government talking about a cashless society, the banks have been going that way. How many branches has Royal closed in the last few years? Scotia has closed branches as well. They had a branch on Park Street, they closed down that. Some other places as well. The only bank that has opened branches, additional branches, has been Republic Bank. And it's not necessarily an increase in their branch network. Whereas before they would have been renting space in a mall or something, they decided to build standalone branches. So in Trincity, they moved out of the Trincity Mall and they opened a whole standalone branch on that Trincity, that Royal Road there, right? Same thing down in Gulf City, they moved out of Gulf City Mall, and next to KFC, they're up there, they build a branch. So it's not an increase in the branch network, it's just simply we move out from rental facilities and now we have our own thing. But the banks are moving towards cashless society, online banking. They continue to push people in that direction. So if it is you cut the tax rate for the banks who making billions in profits from 35 to 18%, that 17% loss, that is not going to result in the bank. What they may do is use the money to expand outside of Trinidad, right? You know, Republic Bank loves to expand, but they're not creating jobs in Trinidad. No, it's not. And a lot of that money will simply end up in the pockets of the bank shareholders. Yeah, but Rowley want to make the rich richer. Rowley saying nothing wrong with the rich getting richer. And the poor had to suffer, and they're oppressing the poor. But who really trying to make the rich richer? It's not Keith Rowley advocating that we cut the tax rate for the banks and other big business that making millions and millions of dollars in profits and billions in profits every year. It's not Keith Rowley saying that. It was Keith Rowley who increased the tax rate for the banks. But I never hear Kamala complaining about that. Yeah, they only want to tax. I ain't here talking about the tax on the banks though. Yeah, but she want the support of the banks. So you know what? Let's fool big business. We need money to fund our campaign. So let's tell them, put us in office and we will cut the tax rate. You'll pay less taxes. But promising the world, the stars and the moon on Friday, put me back in office and we will bring back baby grant 500 a month to make child. Land for the landless, come, put us back in office and we will give you a certificate of comfort to go in the bush, clear some trees and put up a shack, according to her 2x4. And maybe you could save $50 or $100 every month from the baby grant. And eventually you would amass sufficient money that you could graduate from a 2x4 to a 10x10, according to her. And the same woman who is making that offer to you, to the poor and the struggling and the oppressed in Trinidad and Tobago, she probably living in a 15,000 square foot house and drawing a pay of over $100,000 a month. You feel she could understand what you're going through? You think she really cares about you? No. But she know that's what Somali want to hear. Because Rowley ain't promising that. Rowley ain't saying, come on, I'll give you $500 a month to go and make child. Children that you can't mind, because apparently $500 a month could mind child. $500 probably isn't even enough a week when you have to buy formula and all of these different things and Pampers. But she promising that, and you have people praising her for that and lining up. Yeah, that's what we want to hear from Kamala. That's what we want. Rowley ain't care about poor people. But meanwhile, the same Rowley offering you $20,000 to start a business. One shot. You could get that in one shot. You know how long it's going to take you to get $20,000 on that baby grant? More than 3 years. More than 3 years to get $20,000. But Keith Rowley telling you, come, let me give you $20,000 to start a business. But I'm not just giving you the money. Let me give you the training and the support. And if you need more money, we have facilities in place for that too. So the first $20,000 is a grant that you don't have to pay back. But if it is that your business requires a little more, we have a loan facility in place to help you. And we're not sending you out on your own. We will give you that support that you need to make your business a success. We don't want that. No, we want baby grant. That's what we want. We want free money. We want food card. That's what. We want an increase in the minimum wage from $20.50 to $25. Auntie Kamala says she's going to raise it to $25. That's what we want. We want $25 an hour. So we could work 5 hours for the day. And when we finish, when the sun just coming up, we could go back home and lie down in the bed and lie down in the hammock and just rock and wait till the next morning we get up again and we go again. But we want $25 an hour. Yeah, we don't want to be able to write our own paycheck, but we could be earning hundreds of dollars an hour instead of watching the so-called 1% and the business community who making money and talking about Rowley when he want the rich to get richer. But he's giving you an opportunity to become rich. You ain't want that. No, I don't want that. That's too much work to become rich. Don't come and tell me nothing about no homestead program where I get in 2 acres of land and start a house, $20,000 to start my business and stuff. I don't want it. That's too much work. I don't want to have to go to school for 2 years and the government paying me to go to school to learn about agriculture. I'm not interested in that. I want $500 a month and a $25 an hour minimum wage. That's what I want. That's the example I want to set for my children. So she knows that. And will come Friday and talk that rubbish. Or she will give public servants 10%, at least 10% if she comes back into office. Where is the income coming from? If you're cutting taxes, nothing, not one word about how they plan to generate income, right? To support all of these promises that she's making. Just like the $3,000 pension she promised you in 2010. Life begins at 60, at age 60. Vote for us, and when you turn 60, you're getting $3,000 old age pension. No means test. Just come and apply, and within days or a month or so, once your documents in order, $3,000 in your bank account. That is separate and apart from the $3,000 you're getting from NIS. So if it is that when you retired, you were working a minimum wage job or something and you were earning $4,000 or less a month, you reach 60, you're earning the highest wage you ever earned in your life, $6,000. You can rock back. Life begins at 60, your life. You never earned $6,000 a month in your life yet, but government will give you that. That's what she promised. Plenty people take that chin up and went and voted for her, and then she said it was a misprint. You're telling you, we will change it from a grant to a pension. Pension means you're guaranteed to get it. But did they make any changes to the system by which the pension is given? Was the same blasted means test between 2010 to 2015. They didn't change that. But trading up, we will change it back. Manning change it to a grant, which means they could take it back whenever they want. But we will change it back. So we change the name from grant to a pension. And stupid people software take that and buy it and run with it. And figure, yes, when I reach 60, it's just to go and apply and I get it. Or when I reach 65. But they did not change the methodology. So the same system, where the social welfare officer to come to your house and see where you live in. And they want to see your bank account, your bank statements, and they want to see your passport to see where you travel and how many times you travel and all of these different things. They want to know if you own any property. What is the household income? How many people working in your house? And what is the monthly take when we add up everybody's salary? All of these things they look at to determine if it is you qualify. They didn't change that. But the foolish supporters come in and talk about Kamala increase pension and Rowley increase the pension. I listened to Vandana Mohit and her contribution. No mention by the minister of any increase in the support for the disabled and the vulnerable in society. That's what she come with. Right? Spend almost 45 minutes talking about that. And the Eldamo bus, and they have 6 buses and only 1 bus driver. That's the government's fault, right? You don't have people on a board of management in PTSC who making a ton of money. Probably the head of the PTSC probably making more money than the minister. Whose responsibility it is to ensure staffing is in place, to ensure that these facilities run properly. No, blame the minister for that. Because the minister is supposed to go down to PTSC every morning and do the roster and see, hey, where the drivers fell down. We're only seeing 1 driver here. Give me 5 other names because there's 6 drivers we need. We have 6 buses for now. Yeah, that's the minister's responsibility. He has to do the roster for the employees at PTSC. Or don't hold PTSC management accountable. Blame the minister. That's all they do. Blame the minister. Blame the minister. The buck stops with him. All right, so you come in the parliament to talk rubbish. Meanwhile, you have a number of facilities available for these people to come out of poverty. But they see the benefits in keeping these people in poverty. Because if it is you give them a hand up and they can take care of themselves and their family, you can't come and offer these same people baby grant. Because they have moved beyond that. When you have your own business, you're not interested in food card. So you can't try to bribe me to get my vote on the promise of a food card. If it is that you give me a hand up, as this administration is doing, to start my own business and to create a legacy, generational wealth. So I will take the first leg, start the business, and then bring my kids into it. And then they will take it to the next level. And the next level, as the same 1% that they like to criticize. Where is Ansa Makal today? When Anthony Sabga started it, how many years ago? It wasn't where it is today. But it's each successive generation understanding the business and expanding. But they wouldn't push that. This government is trying to inculcate that into the psyche of the citizens of this country. But you have the UNC on the sidelines who are very successful when it comes to social media and pushing foolishness. I know the government are only oppressing, and this Rowley is an oppressor. 2 acres of land, $20,000, and I start a home is oppression? Well, give me that oppression. I don't mind being oppressed in that way. Right? A plan to create 1,000 new entrepreneurs by 2025 is oppression. Giving you a hand up so that you can start your own business is oppression. Well, give me that oppression. I love that type of oppression. Giving people deeds of lease instead of certificates of comfort is oppression. Well, I will take that oppression. But they're out there telling the people there, all the minions, the waterfront ilk, they resurrect them and bring them there Friday. And not Friday, Monday. Rowley must go. Rowley must go. Rowley must go. We love Kamala. If you see them, everybody falling over themselves so that she could touch their hand. Oh my gosh. Auntie Cam's touched my hand. I ain't washing my hand again for the rest of my life. I'm going to put my hand in a plastic bag and wrap it up. Because she touched my hand. It was like God came down for them. That is the goddess. What does she have to offer? Can't even help her own damn self. Struggling to walk. Don't even know if she could serve another 5-year term. I was listening to her on Friday on the radio, and the woman sounding feeble, like she's struggling. I'm surprised. Well, I didn't look at it, so I don't know if it is she used the usual tactic. Say something that would cause an uproar by her members, and they'll probably make some noise for about 2-3 minutes so they could give her a chance to sit down, rest her legs for a little bit, and then she could stand back up and continue her presentation. I await for the so-called economists, the men and women of letters, to analyze her response to the budget and the UNC's manifesto and tell the country why it makes no sense. She come back with stand your ground and making it easier for persons to access firearm users' licenses and the like. And meanwhile, her former friend, Gary Griffith, continues to rubbish all of these policies. But he's still hoping on the sidelines that somehow they could have some discussion and form an alliance for 2025. Somehow. I saw Philip Alexander there, and he was only too happy to be caught on camera giving her a kiss on her cheek. You know, and embracing each other. Yes. That is the future of politics in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. As I said, the only thing they didn't do on Friday or last week, Monday, was to lie down in the middle of Abercrombie Street so she could walk on their back. Yeah, they were supposed to form a red carpet from Woodford Square all the way up to the front door of the parliament so she could walk on their back. Her feet mustn't touch the bare ground. No, we can't have that. She must have something soft to walk on. Yeah, that's nonsense. Bringing a host of other people there, see they interview 1 or 2 persons and talking to them. Same waterfront, they have a clue what's going on inside. Ask any of them outside there, what's your thoughts on the budget? Can't answer. They don't have a clue, but we come to support. Rowley must go. Rowley must go. And what's even worse, there are some of them standing in the same crowd talking about Rowley must go and Rowley must go. But they get a 20,000, no? They start their business with the 20,000. They go in there running and sign up, telling the children go and sign up for the Homestead program. But coming outside the parliament and talking about Rowley must go and Rowley must go. But the same policies that Rowley put in place to start business, they're taking full advantage of it. But meanwhile, they're going into the depressed communities and telling them, boy, Rowley are nothing to all your boy. Rowley care about all your, Rowley only care about the 1%. Filling these young men's heads with that foolishness. Right? Characterizing the Homestead program in such a way that these young men figure that what it is simply Rowley want them to go, according to one young man, to go and dig dirt in the hot sun. That's what he offering the youth. I wouldn't tell them the other aspects of it that they could benefit from. So fill their head with stupidness so that they would refrain from participating. You know why? So they could continue to pick up the gun and continue the crime scourge and the increase in murders. So they could use that. Because other than the crime situation, there isn't much else that they have that they could reference in 2025 to tell people why they shouldn't vote for the PNM. But understand, again, if you have not listened to what Stuart Young said on Friday, you could go on the Parliament channel on YouTube, or you could go on the Parliament channel, channel 109 on Flow. I don't know what it is on the other cable networks. I'm sure they're going to replay it, and you could listen to Mr. Young tell us the importance of what is to come in 2027, right? The benefits of that. And so when David Lee can ask, what did the government give up? Because I know it's interesting. I was going through YouTube on Friday evening, on Friday morning, was it? Friday afternoon. And I came across Power 102 morning breakfast show. They interviewed Mariano Brown on Friday morning. And about to get his position on the budget and so on. And interestingly, it was when I looked at David Lee later on in the night, when I got a chance to look at David Lee's presentation, I was looking to see if Mariano Brown was standing behind him with his hand up David Lee's backside. Because I could have swear David Lee was a puppet, right? And I was looking to see if the ventriloquist, Mariano Brown, was standing behind him. Because David Lee was parroting exactly what Mariano Brown said, word for word, no change, you know. Word for word, what Mariano Brown said on that morning program, is what David Lee said when he made his contribution later on in the afternoon. So I was looking to see Mariano Brown stand up behind him, if he was a puppet and Mariano is the ventriloquist. But you're coming to present and talking as if you know, and all the energy companies, they don't give up something for nothing. And we want to know what the government gave to them and what they gave them and all of that. But maybe if you did your research, Mr. Lee, you would see that the head of BP and the head of Shell and Woodside and all of these companies that now lining up to get a share of the Venezuelan gas fields that Stuart Young and Keith Rowley have been able to negotiate. They understand. In fact, the head of BP said Coquina Mannequin would not have been possible had it not been for the diplomatic interventions of Stuart Young and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Because BP was on the side for years trying to negotiate with Venezuela to buy out the Coquina field to no avail. They got nowhere with that. But Stuart Young was able to come in the space of a couple of years and he was able to negotiate and get them access. What they were looking for, they couldn't get. So they understand that Stuart Young has access to people and places that they can't get into, even though they're the head of these big international energy companies. Stuart Young is on a first-name basis with them, and he could get into Miraflores, something that they find difficult to do. He could sit down in the White House. He has access to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, something that they have difficulty doing. So the government ought to give up anything. They realize the influence that Stuart Young has, and therefore they want to leverage on that. So in the renegotiations for the Atlantic LNG, Stuart, we good, because we see the potential that when it is that the head of BP and talking to international investors on an international forum could reference business in Trinidad as being part of their major accomplishments of 2024, it speaks volumes. But they were only able to accomplish this because of, according to Dr. Rowley, the shuttle work that Stuart Young was doing between Washington, Port of Spain, and Caracas. And so while he was able to secure Dragon, you have 3 other projects in that Marisca field that have even more gas. You feel BP don't have the sight set on that? But remember, government could choose. You go with BP, you go with Shell, you go with Woodside. So everybody, they want to hug up with Stuarty. They want to be Stuarty's best friend. Because when that time comes, hey, Stuarty, handle your boy now. Give us the opportunity. And that is why Stuart Young, it is imperative that Stuart Young must be a part of any future government 2025 going forward. Must be a part of. Whether it's in the capacity of Minister of Energy or some higher position. Because he is intimately aware and familiar with the workings of those negotiations, and therefore you can't bring in some neophyte who don't know nothing, who is not familiar with it. If it is that somehow Mr. Maduro is able to survive for another 6 years, understand. That's what Stuart Young told us on Friday. You feel if they win next year at UNC and Maduro is still the president, you feel he doing any business with them? When they accuse this man of all kind of things, what they say is what they forget. The most recent being, of course, the claim by Kamala Persad-Bissessar that Mr. Maduro is part of a corrupt cook-up between himself, Dr. Rowley, and Naveen Jindal. But you know what I find interesting? She made that claim just before the Venezuelan election. You realize up to now, the UNC has not had an official position, or otherwise, or unofficial, with respect to what's going on in Venezuela. Persad-Bissessar has not put out any press statement. She has said nothing on the platform. None of the officials of the UNC have said anything in respect of that. While you have, what's her name? Sheila Rampasad, I think it is. Is Sheila or Indira? Whichever one of them. Calling the government, the prime minister, a coward for taking a neutral position with respect to Venezuela. Right? The UNC, she ain't calling out the UNC though. Yeah, Rowley's a coward because he say, we taking a neutral position and whoever is sitting in Miraflores is who we dealing with. She defines that as cowardice. But up to now, the leader of the opposition has said nothing on the matter. No comment whatsoever. None. Munilal ain't say nothing. Tanko ain't say nothing. David Lee hasn't said anything. Not one of them has commented on the happenings, the outcomes of that election, anything that is going on and the potential. They have the minions talking though. You know, the plebs talking about the borders for us and if it is thing, and then more Venezuelans will be coming to Trinidad and all of that. But the officials are saying nothing. You know why? Because they realize there's a strong possibility that Mr. Maduro might survive another 6 years. And that if they win as they hope to, they dependent on all the old talk and old talk. Trust me, they dependent on Dragon because they know the country's revenue position. They dependent on Coquina Mannequin. They dependent on Manatee. And they're hoping that Stuart Chung in the next year or so could probably pull off some sort of trick, magic trick with Lauren. They're hoping Kamala Harris wins in November so that at least we have a friend in the White House. And depending on how things go in Venezuela, that the current arrangement could continue and we could get more long-term contracts for more gas fields. They open that. But they understand that because they're yapping and they thought Maduro was on his way out, oh, they give them out liberty all the time. But now that it looks like that might not be the case, they hush and hoping that what Maduro will forget. So that if they win next year, they say, well, you know, we ain't about to talk here no more than a year, you know. We recognize the error in our ways. But 2018, they had plenty to say when they were supporting Guaido. Plenty. They wanted the world to know that the United National Congress, the government in waiting of Trinidad and Tobago, supports Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela. We recognize him, and we do not recognize Nicolas Maduro. And Rowley's a yellow-belly coward. And he feels he's a bajan. He wants to know what Trump could do. And Pasabi says stand up on a platform and talk about all the things Trump could do if it is that we're not supporting his position. That over 200,000 citizens in Trinidad and Tobago have US visas. And when those visas come up for renewal, because of the government stance with respect to Venezuela, that the US could deny these people renewal of their visas. And the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which is some security thing, when that come up for renewal, we could find ourselves in problems. All the things she went to tell us, went to tongue to tell us what Trump could do. What Trump did. What he did 2 years later, he was out of office. Out of office. That was their position. Kowtow. Yes, Mr. Trump, we realize that we are just a dot on the map, Trinidad and Tobago. So walk over us now, please. Would you like us? You want to walk on our stomachs or walk on our back? You just tell us. Whatever you want, we will do, Mr. Trump. Yes. You pay no obeisance to your great Trump. Dr. Olisa, I'll have none of it. None of it. We may be small in size. We may be small in terms of our population numbers, but we could stand toe-to-toe with any other leader in the world. 2020, 2 elections. Trinidad and Tobago, United States of America. Keith Rowley is still prime minister. Where is Trump? Where is he? So now they hush. They have nothing to say. They want to aggravate. They don't want to make this. They realize they've already made this situation worse. And I kept telling you all that. And Stuart Chung has now reinforced it. That all of these gas deals that we're looking forward to in 2027, that could take us back to the heights of gas production, are in jeopardy if you make the wrong choice in 2025. Right? If you make the wrong choice. So if things go the way that we hope in November in the US, and if somehow Mr. Maduro survives, we still have to look to see what happens in Trinidad and Tobago. And if it is these gas deals fall by the wayside because certain people in the UNC, starting from the leadership come down, decided to give them out liberty when it came to Mr. Maduro, and we lose out on that, where's the revenue coming from? But while it is every Sunday, Ralph Maraj only talking about diversification, and this government this and this government that, and Rowley this and Rowley that, while he challenging the PNM, and every Sunday has nothing good to say about the Prime Minister or the Minister of Finance, he is not holding the government and waiting to account. Because if he is advocating and supporting them, right, coming back in office, same thing he like to say, the PNM knew in 2015 the challenges that they would have faced with respect to oil and gas, and therefore they should have had a plan in place. You're holding the UNC to account? What is the UNC's plan if they win next year? What are their plans for diversification? Do you support it? It making sense? The same thing you're accusing the government of now. What did the UNC do between 2010 to 2015 to diversify the economy? Maybe if they had done something then, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in today. But like Ralph forget that in 2010, we were in the process of building a smelter plant, which today, had the UNC not out of spite, wickedness, and vindictiveness cancelled, today would have been earning tons of foreign exchange at 20-something hundred US per ton. That plant in La Brea would have been bringing in much needed foreign exchange. I don't understand the sick obsession that he has with foreign exchange and foreign direct investment. But the smelter plant would have been earning foreign exchange, Ralph. Plenty too. But it was the UNC who come and tell the people, hey, all don't vote for the PNM because you see that smelter plant will give all the cancer and kill all the. Everywhere else in the world where they have smelter plants, I ain't hear no upsurge and people getting cancer and dying. But only in Trinidad that will happen. But the fully done wouldn't hold their leadership accountable for that though. Talking about Trinidad and Tobago is a one horse or one trick pony. I want to ask Ralph. He loves to talk about climate change and the debilitating effects of climate change. The other Caribbean countries and CARICOM countries are depending primarily on tourism, right? Who are more susceptible to climate change than we are, like Barbados. How have they diversified the economy? Other than tourism, what is their other income generating product, Ralph? Mia Motley is always talking about the challenges that Barbados could face with respect to climate change. She went to COP26 and make this big speech and she buffed up the other leaders of the world. Today, they have COP29 coming up. Anything happen between COP26 and 29 to change the situation? No. But he loves to reference Guyana. But what about the rest of them? They're doing very great work, right? Nobody else has a model for diversification that Trinidad and Tobago could follow other than Guyana. The same Guyanese government that has made 4 withdrawals from their equivalent of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund for the year so far, with all 600 and something thousand barrels of oil per day. We're producing less than 60,000 barrels of oil per day. They're producing over 600,000 barrels of oil per day, and they're withdrawing money from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Why? If we were generating 600,000 barrels of oil per day, probably every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago would be wealthy under the management of this administration. Because they're not about spending money wildly to fool people. So I could tell you, in 2022, when we had the budget surplus, we could have had a deficit. Mr. Mbert could have said, well, hey, we get more money than we thought we would have gotten because of the war in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia. So let me find something to spend that on now. Let's find some grandiose project and announce it and spend the money on that. He could have done that. He didn't do that. And that is why the IMF would have praised him, because some of the monies would have been used to pay down debt. Money was put into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and the money would have gone forward for budgetary support for the following year. He could have been irresponsible, like the UNC would have done. Budgets of between $60 to $65 billion every year. You ever see Mr. Mbert had a $60-something billion budget? I want to ask Ralph that. And that is what they got the country accustomed to. So I saw there's an article in one of the dailies, I think it's the Guardian today, about some economists from UE talking about, just now, let me plug this thing on here. Yeah, some economists started talking about the budget deficits, the constant deficits that the government has been running. The UNC ran budget deficits for all 5 years from 2010 to 2015, 4 of which was under the stewardship of a man that they paid $11.625 million to leave the working FCB to become the Minister of Finance. Did we get $11.625 million worth of work, of good work? I would think if you could pay a man $11.625 million to become the Minister of Finance, I expect him to work magic. We were supposed to be having budget surpluses every single year. Every year. No other Prime Minister has ever done something so foolish. What was so special about Hawaii? It had nobody here could have paid $5 million to $2 million to lead their work with the same qualifications or better. After this man presided over 10 million US missing from the bank account of the NEC, which bank account was held at FCB, and he was the head, he was the chairman of NEC and CEO of FCB at the time. That was the best person you all could have found to become Minister of Finance and pay millions of dollars to leave his job and still pay him a salary with perks as Minister of Finance. And that we applaud. Yes, that was wise. But 5 years of budget deficits. And while it is, they come with the populist policies and offering the poor, because for them, the only people they care about in this country is the poor. Everything is the poor. Raul, you're oppressing the poor. Raul, you're oppressing the poor. Suffering the poor. Why? Because they know you could fool the poor. Well, some of the poor anyway. Those who just like to hear about handouts. So some of them would have been pleased to listen to what Prasad Bisesa had to say on Friday. right? The only thing some of them here is, hey, baby grant coming back, boy. They put aside $120 million for baby grant between 2010 to 2015. Well, and eventually came in place. I think it was around for about a year. And in that year, 20 million was utilized in that year, right? So give them, if you had given them another year, that full 120 million might have been frittered away in the wind. Another point I see they had an issue with the allocation to the office of the Prime Minister of some $50 million for, I think, his entertainment, right? Or something like that. And Dr. Rowley had to make the point on Friday night in Belmont that notwithstanding the budgets or the allocations, he doesn't entertain. He said, in fact, I have one meal for the day, whichever one it is. So if it is he missed breakfast, he might have lunch and then that's it, no dinner. Or if it is he has a busy day that starts early, he probably skip breakfast and lunch and just have dinner. So depending on which day and what his schedule looks like will determine which meal he will have. So he is not going and sit down in any restaurant with anybody to have dinner or to have lunch. Unless he is invited, that somebody has an event and he is attending. But he is not taking public monies to carry it to wine and dine anybody. Save and except. And even if you have officials, foreign officials probably come into the country, they would come to the Prime Minister's residence where you have food being cooked and they will partake in a meal there. But this budget and the figure that Dr. Rowley going and spend, let us not forget, folks, that every year the office of the Prime Minister would host events at the Diplomatic Center. So for Indian Arrival Day, Emancipation Day, Diwali, Christmas, the Prime Minister would have events at the Diplomatic Center and he would invite citizens, so ordinary citizens and others, to come to sit and have a meal because it's their money, it's the people's money. And he invites the people to come. He is not the first Prime Minister to have done that. Prasad Bisesa used to do that. She threw a whole big bash for the members of the 1% community, the Syrian Lebanese community, specifically for them. Dr. Rowley has never done that. Never. $350,000 spent on roti. They hired 3 caterers to provide roti, but only 1 caterer brought the roti. But they got 3 invoices and they paid 3 invoices though. 3 invoices paid, but only 1 man bring roti. 350,000. Right? Couldn't defend that. This government came in and this Prime Minister found what was left, the remnants of the alcohol that they couldn't cart away. They didn't have time to thief. And the Prime Minister's residence, over $400,000 worth of alcohol. We know there have been more than that. We're not talking about that. They ain't concerned about that. Oh, $50 million. Well, file a Freedom of Information request now to see how much money the Prime Minister spent, but he's saving all of the trouble. Because as he says, he has requested the information from UDCOT as to how much money has been spent under his tenure on entertainment and otherwise, and how much money was spent under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and he should have that information by the time he makes his presentation in the parliament into the budget. So you might just have to wait a couple of days to hear the figures. So hold straight, right? You're going to get the figures very soon. And the other revelations that the Prime Minister would have made on Friday, for those of you who took the time to listen, about the sewer line that was clogged up with female underwear. No, we've heard stories about that, about how that underwear might have gotten there. But that is a discussion for another time. We'll look at the time there. Right. What is the words that was used, boy? Misleading. Irrelevant. But you know what word has not been used? Untrue. Untrue. Look at that story here. Where is it? Patriotic Energy labels minister's statements as misleading. This was the response, misleading and mischievous. This was the response yesterday from Patriotic Energy Services Company Limited, owned by the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, to Energy Minister Stuart Young's statement that the company provided a fake and fraudulent document during its bid for the former Petrotrin refinery at Pointe-à-Pitre. In a media release, Patriotic said Young's statement made during his contribution to the budget debate in Parliament on Friday was misleading and mischievous. Misleading and mischievous don't mean untrue, as what he presented under parliamentary cover was not Patriotic's financial partner that met with the cabinet-appointed evaluation committee. It stated the solely selected financier would have been submitted to the evaluation committee and Scotiabank International, which both accepted as our preferred financier. Patriotic said its preferred financier would have been interviewed and vetted by the evaluation committee, and no alarms were raised. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Ah, boy. Apologies to the folks on Facebook. I took this device with me to Florida with the intention of doing my lives, and I didn't, and then I forgot to put it to charge. So now it's giving me some stress. Let's give me 1 sec. Let me see what I could do. Come on, thing. Sorry. YouTube people, give me 1 second and let me see if I can. I mean, it's charged, but not charged, it's connected. 1 second. I think I probably need to get another device for Facebook. Oh, waiting. Okay, let's see here. All right, so some of them may have to join us on, where is Facebook? Right. Here we go. Let's try this again. Nah, not happening. So we stick in, I guess we just had to stick to YouTube for the time being. So apologies to the Facebook folks. Right. So we're discussing Mr. Roger here. As on Mr. Roger, anybody could just know. Anybody could tell me how Michael Anizet has returned as the President General, I think it is, of the SWWTU, given the fact that he was removed quite recently because of his age and all of that. But anyway, I didn't read anything. I just saw he appeared. So if anybody knows how that happened, please help us out now. Let me get this here. Apologies again to the Facebook folks. So some of them might have to switch across to YouTube just for a bit. All right, let me get this here. So just get this. Right. Patriotic said its preferred financier would have been interviewed and vetted by the evaluation committee, and no alarms were raised by Scotiabank International or the evaluation committee. As a matter of fact, there was some level of comfort and satisfaction with the preferred financial partner. We remain confident that our preferred financier can stand the scrutiny of any due diligence process and invite the same. Patriotic remains confident that we met all the requirements and have presented the best proposal for and on behalf of the workers of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. On Friday, Young said while the document provided by Patriotic Energy stated that the company had US $1.5 billion to purchase the Petrotrin refinery, the company did not have the money, referring to reckless statements from OWTU President Ansel Roger that the government was engaging in political football that prevented Patriotic Energy from vetting or getting the refinery. Young said the evaluation committee consisted of foreign independent experts who looked at experience and financial capability. Patriotic Energies was one of the 10 companies that the government received expressions of interest from. He added Patriotic Energy was unable to provide its financial standing when it first submitted its EOI, and the company was given more time to secure the financing. However, the minister said despite being given more time to raise the financing, the document that Patriotic submitted with regard to the $1.5 billion US was fake. And in a Facebook post yesterday, Young said the statement from Patriotic Energies did not address the submission of a fake document it provided during the bidding for the refinery. Instead, he said the response did not refute the fact that they submitted a fake wire transfer document, but instead they introduced the concept of having a preferred financial partner. I stated, with the evidence in my hand, that Patriotic Energies produced a fake document purporting to be a wire transfer to a local bank for US $1.5 billion. Due diligence confirmed that no such wire transfer was received by the local bank to the account of Patriotic Energies. So the due diligence that Mr. Roger is calling for and inviting, according to Mr. Young, that due diligence was done, Mr. Roger, and it showed that your document was fake. It is clear and obvious that Patriotic Energies is avoiding responding to the fact of the fake document that they submitted. They should be asked whether there was a document submitted by them that indicated a purported wire transfer of US 1.5 billion, and if so, where is the money, or was the document fake? Young said. Patriotic issued another statement yesterday evening, which it said was meant to clarify Young's statement in Parliament and his Facebook post surrounding our bid for the Petrotrin refinery. It said whatever document the minister was brandishing is totally irrelevant. Again, irrelevant. He does not say it is fake. He does not say that the document is untrue. It is irrelevant means, yeah, forget about that now. You know, yeah, okay, it happened, right, forget about that. That's basically what Mr. Roger is saying, right? I stated, that's no. It said, right, Patriotic statement said, on May 10, 2024, Patriotic submitted a non-binding proposal identifying 3 potential financiers. At a meeting held in June 7, 2024, both Scotiabank International and Patriotic indicated that we were still doing our due diligence and verification to substantiate the funding capabilities of the 3 that were submitted. Patriotic, after its due diligence, and since we could not substantiate the proof of funding, we eliminated them all, and on August 3, 2024, we submitted a new financier to Scotiabank International for consideration by the Evaluation Committee. On the 21st of August 2024, our preferred financial partner, along with representatives of Patriotic, met with the Cabinet-appointed Evaluation Committee and presented their comprehensive details of all of the financing plan. All documentation provided was thoroughly reviewed and no concerns were raised regarding their validity at the meeting. At no time was any of the eliminated 3 potential financiers submitted to the Evaluation Committee or brought back into the process as they did not meet Patriotic's requirement. Therefore, whatever document the minister was brandishing is totally irrelevant. If the minister's claims are the basis for rejecting Patriotic's bid, we therefore respectfully call for a reassessment of everything that was presented by our financial partner to the Cabinet-appointed committee on August 21st, 2024, as we are assured that we already adhere to all of the procedures and processes required. Patriotic Energy Services Limited remains committed to transparency and fair processes. We invite our communication with all stakeholders, including the Honorable Minister, to address any concerns. So in other words, to me, this is an admission. Yes, we submitted a fake document, but then, you know, we realize we get catch. So you receive a wire transfer document claiming that 1.5 billion US dollars was going to come into your account, which is basically just over 10 billion TT dollars, right? 10 billion TT dollars. First of all, you didn't need that amount of money because of the concessions that the government gave you last time. You all made a bid of 700 million, which the government accepted. And now you're coming with 1.5 billion. Okay, so I guess you want to tell the government, well, we'll take up the 700 million that you offered us last time, and then we will put another 800 billion to restart the, 800 million to start the refinery. Okay. So in reading this, it is clear there has been no denial that they did in fact submit a fraudulent document. So the question then is, when they submitted this document, they didn't know that it was a fraudulent document? It wouldn't have taken long to find out, because if you receive a wire transfer document and they tell you wire transfers don't take that long, right? So if the process goes through today, depending on the amount and so on, 1.5 billion US, it might have taken maybe about 5 days, a week at best. I would think that you would wait till the money hits your account before you run to hand in this document, right? So to me, reading this, there is no denial on the part of Patriotic that they did in fact submit a fraudulent document. Now, anybody else, regardless of what is your excuse, would now be sitting in a room, in an office in some police station, or on St. Vincent Street, being interviewed, right? As the police would be seeking to put together a file to submit to the DPP for recommendation of charges for conspiracy, for submitting fraudulent documents, I mean, if somebody is applying to become a police officer and they submit a fraudulent education certificate from CXC or whatever, they get charged for that because you submitted a fraudulent certificate. Here it is that you have somebody submitted a fraudulent wire transfer document to the tune of 1.5 billion US in an attempt to hoodwink the government to give you the refinery. And Mr. Roger has not yet been questioned by the police. I find that very strange, to say the least. But you all should read the article and see there has been no denial. He says it's irrelevant, it's misleading, it's mischievous, but nobody has said that it is untrue. But we are not surprised. Understand and remember, these are the people supporting Kamla Persad-Bissessar. In fact, on Friday, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar ran down the list of all the trade unions that they have met with, all the trade unions that they have sat down with and had discussions within recent times. All the trade unions, she talked about NATOC and JTOM and OWTU and NUGFW and all of that. All of these heads of these unions that are sitting down with Persad-Bissessar and pledging the support for the UNC. You all spoke to your membership? Did you consult your membership? They're always talking, everything is consultation. You know, this government is a dictatorship and they're doing things without consulting the people and the population. But these union heads sitting down with Persad-Bissessar and negotiating for their members, right? Negotiating to support the UNC without regard to what is the political affiliation of your membership. I just asking these questions. That's not dictatorship, right? They take it upon themselves to do that. So are you surprised? Now, I bet you're not going to hear the UNC say one blasted word about this. You're not going to see Arnold Roberts do a doubles and coffee to condemn the OWTU and call for police investigation and for people to get locked up. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, had this been something with the PNM, would have put out a press release as soon as it was announced. Up to now, go on her Facebook page. No press release. No call for police investigation into the matter and for those found culpable to face charges. None of that. Yeah, and you will not hear her say that. And that tells you the caliber of person that she is, who wants to be the prime minister but is willing to keep her mouth closed and has nothing to say with respect to somebody who she's sitting with and whose support she's depending on and who could probably end up in the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago submitting a fraudulent document in an attempt to acquire a significant state asset. But when you can have a man sitting to your right in the parliament who is charged for fraud, conspiracy, misbehavior in public office and $1 million bail, and you have him still sitting as the chief whip, it tells you something. A brotherhood of wrongdoers, right? Brotherhood of wrongdoers, and she will not part ways with Mr. Roger. And if she's questioned on it, well, she will tell you, well, the same thing that Mr. Roger has said here, she will repeat. That it is misleading, and Mr. Roger has offered an explanation on that matter. And why? Because she wants support. She wants the support of the union, the trade union movement. And so if that means remaining quiet, having nothing to say on this matter, then so be it. So be it. This is the same woman, and I want to understand something. Right? This is the same woman who exposed Mr. Roger and the incident that happened in Trinma when he was supervisor or whatever it is, where a man almost lost his life. It was Kamla Persad-Bissessar who exposed that. Right? She was the one who came on a public platform to chastise Roger, and she spoke about that in detail. So she, back then, something that is not as criminal or as significant as the utterance of a fraudulent document, she had plenty to say about that. But up to now, this revelation was made Friday, today is Sunday. No press statement, no comment. Friday. Saturday, no press statement, no comment. Sunday morning, they had their wasted time. Sunday morning press conference, they have a question press conference. I didn't listen to it. I'll go back and listen, but I'm pretty sure that matter wasn't addressed. Pretty sure of that it wasn't addressed. And it will not be addressed. But these are the people that she embraces. And the persons who she might want to reward should they win election in 2025, as she did in 2010 when she put Abdullah head of MSJ to sit in the Senate. All the other persons who are part of this team at OWTU and Patriotic, what does Ozzy Warwick have to say about this? Every single one of them on that executive are complicit, as far as I'm concerned. And they should all be the subject of a police investigation now. And the subject of possible charges. But this is the caliber of people who offering themselves to you. You feel the trade union movement is going to give Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC support to help them to win an election and not to expect something in return? Even if it means that they have to give 1 or 2 of their members senatorial positions, because if they win, they're entitled to 16 senators in the parliament. So what is to give 3 or 4 to the trade union movement? But she is prepared to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to this matter, simply so that she could retain the support of the OWTU and their assistance in 2025 to get into office. But that was typical when she was prime minister. Turn a blind eye. We'll put them back. But they have the audacity and the temerity to accuse this administration of corruption and being the most corrupt. But the fully dons wouldn't say anything. So as long as the leader remains quiet, they will follow suit and they will say nothing on this. You feel they will say anything about this and kick out the PNM? No. Where is Mr. Philip Alexander, right? The defender of good governance and the defender of transparency, always talking transparency and probity. Go on his Facebook page. Any mention of that? Of course not. Yeah, but he telling you, the only way good governance can return to Trinidad and Tobago is if Kamla Persad-Bissessar comes the prime minister. And he has all the answers. Philip will fix it as his tagline. Any problems you have, call Philip, and within matters it's fixed. But he will not speak on that, but will accuse everybody in this government of wrongdoing. And he too will stay silent. So when all of them want to form their alliances for 2025, understand it's a brotherhood of wrongdoers. And if it is none of them speak on this matter, you have a responsibility to hold them to book and to account. Because if Persad-Bissessar says nothing on this, she too is complicit. As far as I am concerned, she's an accomplice. And this matter must be fully investigated by the police. Because had it been anybody else, an average citizen, long time, they would have been in handcuffs. Long time. So this cannot go under the rug. And I hope that we hear more about it from the government going forward, right? That in the budget debate, reference will be made of that, and hopefully we can see some more public meetings as we did on Friday. Yes, all right. Yeah, we could see some more meetings like that, and more revelations could be made. But I want to admonish persons before I open the lines. The budget debate continues in earnest in this coming week. This is where the individual ministers will speak, and they will elucidate and give you the granular details of what their ministry intends to do with their allocations come 2020, budget 2024, 2025. Because when you listen to the members of the opposition talking about, the minister didn't talk about this, and the minister didn't talk about that, and the minister didn't go into detail about this, and the minister didn't expatiate on that. You're complaining the minister talked for 5 minutes, 5 hours and 13 minutes. If he was to go into details about all the things that they wanted him to go into details on, he would still be talking. That is what the individual ministers are there for. The minister gives the skeletal framework, and it is for the individual ministers to put flesh to the skeletal framework. And that is what we will get in the coming week. On the other side, what we will get is stupid talk, old talk, rubbish. Munilal normally speaks on the Tuesday after the budget is read, so expect Tuesday that he's going to come with some dotishness to try and deflect from the revelation with respect to the OWTU and patriotic. Let's see what bombshell he come in with, because you know that is what he uses his time for, right? So I look forward to hearing what he has to say, unfortunately. But nothing of substance, I can guarantee you that. And their shadow minister of finance, Dave Tanku, another one. Waste that time. But let's listen to what rubbish he come in with this upcoming week. And this is the government in waiting, the alternative to the PNM. Right? So if it is you're hoping to hear anything of substance, anything of sense coming from the opposition bench, don't waste your time. If you're looking for comic relief, tune into the Parliament channel when they're talking. But otherwise, listen to, and I hope that the ministers would seize on the opportunity to explain to the people that, notwithstanding the fact that you see billions of dollars being allocated to national security and billions to health and billions to education, that they would seek to give a breakdown as to how that money was spent in the last fiscal and how it is going to be allocated in the upcoming year, what percentage goes to salaries, what percentage goes to paying things like GATE, for instance, under education, and paying for bursaries and scholarships and the like. So people can understand That when they see all of this big, how much billion this one get and how much billion that ministry get and where the money gone, give account of it. Let them know. It's not that hard. Because if they were really interested, they'd file a freedom of information request. All of them who bump in the gum, the like of Inchan Ishmael, Philip Alexander, and the Roberts and the rest. If they were really interested in letting the people know how that money was spent, they would have filed a freedom of information request long time. The reason why they haven't done it is because they're not interested in the truth. And they know what the truth is. But they will not do it. Instead, they will offer you propaganda, conjecture, old talk, stupid talk, and they know that there's a significant portion of the population who will take that and run with it. All of a sudden, everybody discover how to do live. Everybody now is an influencer on TikTok. What is going on here? Just now. Right. Okay. So just now, let me see here. All right, let me try to get back on the Facebook stream. Hopefully this thing got sufficient charge to be able to do that, because I'm getting messages from persons telling me the Facebook feed is down. Ah, boy. Folks, it's already 1 o'clock, and there's plenty more that I wanted to touch on, but you all know that is what happens when I'm away. So we will continue the discussion on Tuesday, but for now I shall open the lines at 770-176. Give me 1 second, caller. Let me just switch this device, please. Just 1 second. Let me just connect this device here. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my darling. How are you?
I am good.
Welcome back. We missed you.
Thank you so much.
Now, I must start with prayer first. Thank you, Father, for this day, for every blessing we have received, Father, and we're in the land of the living. God bless us all, Lord Jesus, and keep us safe, Father, by the power of Jesus Christ. Amen. People hate Tim Rowley because he's a wind-up toy. He knows how to run a nation. He uses wisdom. This is the gimme gang. Don't understand or like that. We will progress in time. An elephant can marry a flea and have children. Impossible. And Mrs. Bicester, I call her Recycle Yes. The UNC people don't know how to sing. They don't stop or listen or sing. All right, you are more than 10%. Okay? If they get it, what happens to the future? It is IMF who be the future. And the children, their grand, and the great-great-grand will pay the IMF, you know. And then, yeah, Rowley, look what you do. What must he do? He's a magician. If you say to Cinderella, what do you want him to do? Right? Look at the counselors, counselor workers, who have to pick us Monday morning. Will they be signing the book? Will they working? Or they going for the state? Because they signed up on the register, and you're not there, it's fraud. Fraud is a crime. Either you go to work or you stay home. If you take a sick leave, I will put a spade and protest. If you casual leave, yes, you can, but casual leave must be before last Friday. Do you want your job or you want to be Canada's writer? Education is one thing, but where's your common sense? Do you love you? Or you hate for the PM and tenant party surpass love for yourself? Dom, have a good day. Be blessed. Bye later.
Thank you so much. Jenny.
Hi, Dominic.
Hi, hi.
You hear me properly?
Loud and clear.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I get often to all those who tune in and look down to facts and stubborn things. Dominic, I was particularly interested in what the Member of Parliament for St. Anne's West, Pottersville North, would have said in his contribution in the budget. One of those things he mentioned is the fact that patriotic, that they would have presented some forged document stating that they would have gotten how much $1 billion as they would have borrowed that, got it, and they will send it probably to the bank to the bank to honor that loan, and that document was forged. That is what the minister alluded to.
Yes.
Well, the minister would have since come out on the pavement, as we call it. He came out under the covers of the Parliament privileges, and he came out and said it in the open. I was expecting that if he had lied, we'd have seen a slew of legal documents served on him by Ansel Roger et al. Instead of that, we haven't seen that. And I'll tell you why this to me is very disheartening. I remember under Kamala Prasad session, when they would have introduced BOAs in the system, flooding the system with business office assistant, working parallel to clerk and typists in the public service. Those workers were on month to month, the most cruel form of labor you could have, where workers just working month to month. Every month they're looking to see if they get a next month contract. There was one of the officers working there, and she wanted to get some furniture or something from a store, but because she couldn't get a job letter, unfortunately she would have forged one. Right? And she lost her job because it became a legal issue. So I'm not understanding how this is not a legal issue where Roger and they are concerned. This is fraud. And it really boggles my mind that the bank, whatever bank they may have sent that to, that the bank, it wasn't recorded. I don't know if it was, but we know hearing about this, so thank God the minister would have raised that issue. So I fully believe what he would have said, and it shows you again the kind of character and the kind of individual that Roger is. And now you see him joining with UNC because it is alleged that he's going up for the point of peer seat for UNC. It is alleged that David Lee has some health challenges, so he will not be going back up. It has also been alleged that Lyra Batiste has been screened to the Arima seat to go up against Penelope Beckers. He's going up for the UNC. Those are things, I guess, to be confirmed. So I'll move on from that. And you were correct. When Kamala Prasad was presenting her budget response, yes, there was a lot of shenanigans in order to give her time to sit down. Yeah, they did that because she stood up for about 3 hours and 45 minutes or somewhere around there. So she really needed the break because they saw her very fragile. And I've noticed that no longer is she using her security as a prop. So probably the security services may have spoken to the officer about that. I don't know. So she's trying to walk on her own now. Kamala Prasad has also said something that has me very concerned. She would have mentioned under the cover of Parliament that there are high officials in the PNM that is involved in pedophilia. Now I want her to come out on the street, just like our Minister Chiotio came out on the street and said exactly what he said in Parliament against Patriotic and Roger. I want Kamala Prasad, the sister, to come out on the Monday night forum, the Tuesday night forum, and wherever. I wanted to say the same things. Because I know that Dr. Deborah Morad would have sworn an affidavit that there's human trafficking in the UNC. And the person who is doing human trafficking still sitting in the UNC. And we know in human trafficking, it has pedophilia. Because those sick, disgusting men and women who take part in that, they're looking for little boys, little girls, teenagers, women, and so on, so on, so on. This will go on. And there's also not one of our counselors accused of grooming, alleged grooming a 15-year-old boy. And then you remember the ambassador, Candace Bond, would have put out a report that they have, that members of government officials are involved in human trafficking. The UNC came out to talk as if it's PNN they're talking about. And then the ambassador had to come and clear stating that when she spoke about government officials, she says anybody employed and paid by the government.
Correct.
So that conversation would have stopped there. Not only that, there was a 1995 report done under UNC, the SAGA report, which stated that there was pedophilia going on in the home, children homes, and for 25 years they did nothing. And that only came to light when two children under Minister Shamfa Kojo, not Shamfa Kojo, Mr. Mayana Webster Roy, in the office of the Prime Minister, in the child division, when two boys would have run away from one of the homes and an investigation was conducted. And coming out of that, we had retired Justice Judith Jones did a report. And then we heard about this 25-year-old report that spoke of pedophilia and sexual misconduct by workers in the homes. And Dr. Rowley would have said, because they want to always talk about PNM and pedophilia, Dr. Rowley said, listen, if anybody could be charged in that, let the police deal with it. You know what happened, Dominic? One man was arrested, the same man was implicated 25 years prior by a 7-year-old child about being abused sexually by that officer. That child was a big man then. He went back with the police and identified the same areas he spoke about. And you know the whole that man, he was working St. Anne's Hospital, you know, he injured. When Dr. Rowley and the government went to court to stop child marriage, because I am sure I heard Minister Camille Robinson Rigby saying that she has records from the register of marriage where I think 11-year-old girls or around that age being married to 40-something-year-old men. When this government went to the parliament to bring laws to stop that, because that is pedophilia, Kamla Prasad get 2 scholars to come to say why big hardback men must marry little children. So who like more pedophilia than Kamla Prasad based on that? And thank God this government persevered. We no longer have no big hardback man could marry no little child. They also went in the parliament with a nasty lie and said the worst things about Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley and his family and what he did and that. Although the woman who is involved came and would have said directly that is not true and debunked everything they say you're saying, that they try to pay her family members money to lie and say Dr. Rowley did have something that would have been illegal and a criminal act. All that was clear, but they continue to do this. So it seems to me that is the opposition who is fascinated with rape, pedophilia, and abuse. Because when you look on their side, there have been allegations about those things. What about the one who was beaten his wife? Threatened to shoot a gun. That is not on the PNM side. That's on the UNC side, and it goes on and on. And let me just end with this. It is ironic now that we're seeing that the people who are doing housebreaking and all the robbing and all that, all of a sudden they're showing is who showing the nice, good Indian children. Because we always would have said crime is not an African thing, it's a human thing. And now we are seeing the whole who, with a whole van with all kind of housebreaking implements, who rob who shoot who, and we're not seeing they look like us in the East-West corridor. So that's why I'm saying, Kamla Prasad they are not fit for office. Her tactics is to come and go straight to the IMF because she has no plan to bring money into this country, no revenue. So it's the IMF they want to take us. And if we take God out, we told, and vote they back into office because we have only feelings, then woe be unto us. And they say, oh, they'll tell us in 2020, we go eat grass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's going to be worse than grass because they have no idea. Nobody in the world, no one leader wants to meet and talk with Kamala Persad. She don't have no reputation of being no intelligent, intellectual person. Nobody wants to meet with David Lee or Rambali or Khadija Amin. Nobody internationally wants to meet with these people. They are tainted. They don't have the experience. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the patriotism. And they do not love Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm telling people again, everything they say about the PNM is the self they're talking about. It's called projection. What you feel about yourself, you're in denial, and you're saying it to other people. Rape, pedophilia, abuse. We say, ASP Miser saying that across South and the Carvey Bridge, the most amount of domestic abuse leading to homicide is in those areas. They never said the East-West Corridor, where they like to say the urban youth. It's in those areas there. Domestic abuse is high, homicide coming out of it. They ain't gonna talk that. They like to point fingers, but when they point it towards me, then we point it back and then we can again be projecting us. And then I saying this again. Do not be confused by the good talk. She can't even get people to come out to support she without threatening them, in my opinion. I saw 2 pieces of documents with UNC logo on it. They have not said not them. And they clearly tell the people, here, come out. You can not say working because remember it's week work. A paraphrase, isn't it? And we taking a record. So when you see them shouting, trying to hold she hand and things, simply saying, look me here, look, I come here, look me here, we will kill that, look me here. It was all about that. And if you had to do that to get people to come out to support, it shows that you don't really have any support. But if some people are willing to prostrate themselves and embarrass themselves like that, that is their favorite people, 2025, know the agenda. Vote the People's National Movement, so Minister Stuart Young could continue the work in the gas industry. Dr. Rowley could continue the work that he has been doing in this country, and all the other PNM ministers will continue to carry us on a steady path. Thank you, Dominic. Everybody have a blessed weekend.
Thank you, Jen.
Blessed week ahead.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you.
To the place where Bacchanal never sleeps. Right? Just one quick question, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Mr. Roger and the OWTU, a patriotic technology company, weren't they supposed to hire an experienced attorney who was experienced in these type of transactions globally?
Mm-hmm.
So then, if that is the case, how did that legal team allow this error to happen?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They need to answer this. And also their mouthpieces in the parliament, the UNC, needs to answer a question. Since they're conveniently silent, only want to talk about, oh well, they filed a Freedom of Information request to the Cabinet Committee on the decision on why to close down the refinery and how these secretaries and they are dancing them when they're trying to get the document, the cabinet note, to see what was the real reason why they closed the refinery. Why don't they focus on answering that question?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to know. That's why the Prime Minister said in the meeting in Belmont, the reason why he didn't give Minister Young a portfolio from the get-go, because Minister Young's legal expertise spanning decades is these type of transactions. This is his main experience in his legal background.
Correct.
He'll make sure if he was doing it for any company, all the I's and the T's are dotted and crossed, that no errors of this nature will be made. So I am waiting for Mr. Roger, Ozzy Rorick, and the usual mouthpieces explain that to me, because apparently they cannot deny since they haven't already, that the transaction document is fake. You have a nice day.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution. Questions have to be answered, right? And Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the UNC cannot be allowed to not make a comment on respect of this revelation. Brian.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dominic. How are you doing?
Hi, good man. Thank you.
It is a long time, huh?
Yes.
A long time. Dominic, couple things very quickly. First of all, you are correct. Because there was if you go back and look at when the opposition leader was speaking, she turned to, I believe it was Rudal Munira, to say, after the sentence. And he immediately said that he was being disturbed by the other side. And before he could even begin, she sat down. She cannot stand up. It would happen on many occasions. Go back and look at it. She even turned around and told him after the sentence. She did it. I saw it. And I told somebody about it. I said, this woman is unfit. And she has to take breaks. And that she could not stand up at all. That is one point. My second point is, Dominic, I must tell you that I am so ashamed to have been a member of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union for over 22 years of my service to the company. I am so ashamed that I am seeing what lengths these people would go to. A fake document, a fake wire transfer to achieve what objective? Because I recalled when there was a time they said Patriotic Energies filed for bankruptcy, they were bankrupt. But you presented to a government a document indicating that 1.5 billion US was being wired to your account. And the police and the DPP, I hope he gets this document, because something has to be done. We can't be allowing people to be applying for state resources. You understand? And forwarding these type of documents and going unchallenged. It can't just be when it was sick and that's the end of that. No, because if, as you rightly said, the shoe was on the other foot, that would be screaming headlines in today's papers. As a matter of fact, they would not have even waited for today. They would have been screaming since yesterday. You understand? If the shoe was on the other foot, because it would have been a big aha moment.
Yes.
And therefore, we can't just sit back and tell ourselves, well, it's just the OWQ. No. Because let's assume they had gotten away with it. Let's assume they would have waited until, if the UNC had gotten into office and they had done that, and the UNC said, well, okay, they have showed that they have 1.5 billion US dollars, and therefore we're going to give them the refinery. When not 1 cent was passed, that's like the housing project, where up to now, KPMG can't find one piece of mortar for $789 million that done passed through like a dose of salt and paid out to people, whoever. And up to now, we can't find the housing. But money has been paid out. It's the same thing. It is frightening. For me, it is frightening. 1.5 billion US dollars for an oil refinery, and you don't have 5 cents in your back pocket? What was going to be the case after that when we give them the refinery? What are we going to do? Was the then government going to say we're going to back you and give you that money to go ahead and refurbish the refinery and modernize it and start it up? Is this the plan? Is this the secret deal that they have been perpetuating on the people of Trinidad and Tobago? That is why all of them unions say they're backing Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the UNC. These are frightening times. When I said this, I have been in shock since. But
you know, Brian, what we should be concerned about as well is that if the UNC comes into power and Prasad Bisesa she has changed her tongue a little bit and saying, well, we'll consider or we will look at reopening the refinery. Something like this would have passed. Roger would have passed, they would have passed a fraudulent document and the UNC would have given it to them as
That's
payback.
the point. So he would have gotten the refinery through false papers, false documentation that we may not be been any wiser to, and they may be doing secret deals in order to get the refinery up and running however they could run it. You understand? And what would have happened in the end? Is this how the UNC is planning to get back into office by perpetrating false information, false documentation, and the like, and people just gobbling it up? We just can't sit back. I hope the Minister of Finance doesn't leave that there, or the Minister of Energy doesn't leave it there, and they take this where it has to go. Because it cannot be. This is not just a small piece of land or a building or something. It's a refinery to employ people. And you start off with a fake document. We're in trouble if people don't understand how serious that is. For me, it is very serious. All the talk that has been spoken, even by the Minister Churchill, with respect to the deals that he has to negotiate with people who don't even speak our language. And I know for a fact he's trying to get Lauren and to convince Maduro that, listen, it is easier to do both fields than to just do the humanity field. It's a lot easier and they will benefit. I'm almost certainly going to get it. It's 200 trillion scraps of gas that Venezuela is sitting down on. And I know that the minister is not leaving it just like that, nor the Honorable Prime Minister. So if we take God out of our thoughts and allow these people to get in there, to do what? We are going to be in a lot of trouble because Maduro may damn well say, hey, I'm not talking to all you at all, you know. I will have no dealings with you all, too bad. And where are we going to be? This will not come and perpetuate lies and lies and lies. You come to respond to our budget, but telling us to go on your website to find out how you're going to raise the money. And if I recall that, you're going to raise the money by taking assets or monies out of unit trust and NID. That is how you're going to raise the money.
Idle cash balances, she said.
How is he going to raise the money? She has no plan.
Yes.
She has no idea. You're talking about the schools that where the children and so on and you're going to put the police service inside the schools. So what for the children, the teachers, who? We already have a lot of issues with firearms and ammunition and so on the streets. You're going to take people from the police service and put them in the school to film to watch school children? What message are you sending to the children in the school? And which policy will they get to go and sit down there every single day in the 800 odd schools that we have in this country? And then you're lying and saying, I will what? Where are you getting the revenue from? Where are you getting money from? That you cannot say. Tell us. I'm waiting for Tuko MP. What you name Tuko?
Tanku?
Who is the shadow finance minister?
Tanku.
I want to hear what he has to say. How they're going to raise the revenue when it's time to speak. Because I know they can't, they have no plan and they have no idea how they're going to raise it. I listened to what is his name? This one only $1 million bill talking about packers, stupidness, dotishness, asking some stupid dotish questions about when the gas will come and how irrelevant and dotish. You have nothing of value to add. And Cheetah said that he is the energy expert. You know what Petrochin is? He doesn't even know anything about heritage and what heritage is doing on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the benefits of heritage. and you would have let them come up to spoil that? If Roger had any interest in Petrotrin, when the budget was being read on the Monday and it was announced who the three companies are that are in the final phase of the vetting, he would have made a statement between Monday and Friday. He made no statement, none whatsoever. Because your name ain't called, Patriotic Energy's name didn't call, so why you didn't say something? Because you know you want games, and you have been promised pie in the sky from Kamla Prasad. You know why? Because you want African votes. She believes she has the Indian vote also, no? So if I go with the unions, who are the unions? Mainly people of African descent, not so?
Mm-hmm.
And who following them? People of African descent. So she's telling herself that is where I'm going to get the votes. Because she can't come in on the East-West current and talk to nobody really. Because they're not going to vote for us, so I'm going to grab it from where? The unions. So she's promising them pie in the sky, and they're falling for it again. Apparently, David Abdullah has not learned his lesson, and I await to hear what he has to say about this fake document. I am waiting to hear him because he's extremely silent. That Roger is not supporting the MSJ in the election, but is supporting Kamla Prasad Bissessa. What is in it for them? We have to be very, very careful, Dominic, because at the end of the day, if we don't mind our business, Trinidad and Tobago is going to be ruined to the point of no return. If this woman gets into office, we can't be asleep on that particular day. We have to get out and vote because our future and our children's future is at stake. Dominic, again, welcome back and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic,
Oh, Lord. Leave it there.
what's going on?
I am good. I am good.
You know what?
Let me hear you back and I'll come in with.
When you're calling out your people, I say you're calling my sister name, you know.
That is good.
I can't tell this name because you don't know my title.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
I have PNR meeting Friday.
Yes, in Belmont?
I'd as well be ashamed for Dr. Rowley, you know.
Oh, Lord.
Only repeating things he telling PNM supporters years ago. And none of them tap him already, yeah. And that is why I always say, every time he gets on a platform, he had to call Mr. Manning name. Because his conscience killing him, Dominic. His conscience killing him for what he did to Mr. Manning, talking about Lekito. But let them continue. And I hear you talking about, you're always talking about the virus. With all the nonsense he did with the virus, you want to keep talking about the virus? Over 4,000 people lost their lives. Every time you get on a platform, you're telling the people with neighbors using vaccine that were not sanctioned by the WHO. Dominic, you hear any mass deaths in any islands from using vaccine that were not sanctioned by the WHO? Mm-hmm. They were using vaccines. They were giving their people the vaccine. What you were doing?
Mm-hmm.
You were working with the science. And then tell the neighbors that is not a gift or a beg. Dominic, you know Dr. Rowley stood up on a platform and say, we'll accept gifts.
He did?
No, you want to accept gift when push comes to squeeze. No, you want to talk about the virus like you did so well. Over 4,000 people lost their lives. Nonsense. Let him go ahead believing him. Nonsense, Dr. Rowley telling them. Dominic, I will leave it here.
Thank you. So over 4,000 persons lost their lives. How many persons lost their lives in the United States of America? Well over 1 million people, eh? Lost their lives in the United States of America. We present Donald Trump. What about the other countries? When India, who had all the vaccines, they were manufacturing the vaccines. India. And how many people died in India? Right? We were seeing everyday videos of a number of persons with funeral pyres all over the place, people being cremated, dying from the virus, and they had the vaccines there. So Dr. Rowley did such a horrible job of managing COVID in Trinidad and Tobago. So I guess we would applaud the current Prime Minister of India, right? And we will applaud Mr. Trump and others. But that's our discussion for another time. Eric, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
You hear me clearly? Right?
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Hello?
Yeah, Eric, we're hearing you.
Right. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Roman. Welcome back, man. Welcome back. You had your viewers and your followers. Like I had a banker, man. It's nice to hear you on a Sunday afternoon. Right. Let me take a little two jab on that last call there. Leave it there. I feel the other way in the swallow belongs to you because you behave like that just now. Right? So go and collect your underwear. More stuff in the Prime Minister residence where the goody lady would have left. Right? Go and claim your underwear, leave it there. Right, but that being said and done, he's that's our man right now. Right. Now, Dominic, I want to talk about the statements that would have made in response to the leader of the opposition. Let me give her respect. Although she don't deserve it because she holding at that office and she don't respect it. But anyway, I'll continue. Right. She made some statements on Friday, right? And that goes to show, right, the level that this woman, who was a former prime minister in this country, will say in a parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? You make damning allegations about persons in the People's National Movement involved in pedophilia. Like she forgot the alleged sex ring you had in your Philippine house in Philippines, in South Trinidad. I didn't say so. It's Jacona said that. Right? Watch your shadow before you come and make allegations on people. Right? The amount of nastiness and dirtiness that took place in that house down in Philippines, right? Allegedly, a former bodyguard would have come out and make damning statements about what took place, who, what, way, why, how, and when in that house. How Christian Gokul allegedly got that house in South Trinidad. Kamla, when they want to throw stones at people, watch your house. If your house have glass, build your glass, I should say. You understand? You mean just now, the councillor for Princess Mahambre, Princess Tong, right? Have a thirst for young boys, allegedly, right? So when you're making statements like that, Kamla, make sure that your members in your party clean, right? This next one is Double Palm, Zambo. The one who she Zamzam exposed on the internet. The one from Shogunas East, who's now playing like she's more high and mighty because she's an MP and she's championing the cause for people of disability and underprivileged. Like this, forget. So when they're trying to talk and try to draw a reference. Look at yourself first before you talk about other people. Right? Nobody in this facility is perfect. The only perfect person in the facility is God. Everybody else have faults. They're not perfect. But don't come and try to make it look like yours is so best party that other was there for 20 years, or they had no set of problems and everything was honky-dory. Hogwash. You understand? She does trying to be politically relevant right now because that debate or response she had in Parliament, Dominic, that was an election response. That is no response to the budget. No, Dominic, I was telling my family home here, right? I say, all right, if I am the opposition leader, a budget was read in the Parliament for the fiscal year 2025, and I am the opposition leader. Now, yes, we will oppose certain things, criteria, legislations, whatever, right? You may tell me, Dominic, that nothing in that budget that Mr. Imbutt said was good. Nothing that man said in that budget was good. And if you, as a leader who are aspiring to be prime minister in this country, which will never happen, right? You should promote yourself as an opposition leader, giving the population that, hey, here what? I am Cabinet for Services, sir. Based on the budget of 2025, I support this initiative in the budget. However, due to so and so, that this is my take on it, and this is what I intend to do to better the you know what I mean? You go down that line. That woman, I don't know who wrote that woman presentation, but I heard quote unquote, Kabi says is alleged is a former Express reporter, allegedly wrote that Gubar she read in Parliament Friday. Sasha Mohammed allegedly. Right? So I won't doubt it that they only embarrassing this woman and she embarrassing herself by coming and regurgitate that foolishness. So nobody did sit down and actually edit and read over that response. You spent 3 hours and 40 minutes Friday and not one thing that you will say what you want to do to better the lives of the citizens of this country if elected as prime minister a second time, which will never happen. You sit down there and you ain't say nothing. You ain't say, come and say, all right, let me promote myself despite the mistakes we have made in 2010 to 2015. Let me correct the mistake. And up to this day, Dominic, this woman has not come in the public domain and apologized for the wrongs that they would have done in the last 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. 9 years later, you ain't apologize, you ain't admit to all what took place in that period. But you're coming in 2025 now to tell me that PNM stands for Pedophile National Movement. But I want to tell Kamla Posabi says something today. The UNC stands for Unpatriotic, Nefarious Criminals. Because majority of in that party is a bunch of criminals and crooks. Because none of them have no character or no integrity in that party whatsoever. None whatsoever. So don't come and try to tell me that PNM have pedophile. Or there's a set of crooks in that party from the leader go right down to the lowest man on the ground. You understand? And you see Roger and them, I know it's a waste of my time to talk to Roger and Lambuta and them. Because all of them is a set of old farts. There's a set of old dinosaur, old dead wood that refuse to ignite. Time for them to pack up and go home and meet their grandchildren and go and sleep. Give the opportunity for young people to run these unions. Or they only stay down there with their old dead wood cells. You understand? Go and relax on yourself. Take camera to them and go and ride off into the sunset. All of them sit down there and only talk about foolishness and then nothing of substance. And then they expect young people coming up in the country to respect all that. what level of integrity or they give it to the young people coming up in this country? And then all they want to know wonder why the crime situation in this position is in. Because people like also that's created a problem in the country. You understand? The Roger and the Lambert and the next stupid one. Really, I'm forgetting the name. The one who was the bringing us as the backup president. Read him.
Leroy Batiste.
Leroy Batiste, right? Who refused now? I gotta understand that PSC election is due next month. But I have a firm opinion that that man, Leroy Batiste, would not call that election in November. He will go just what Kamala did in 2010 to 2015. Go right down to the wire. But jump high, jump low, come over hell or high waters, the election has to call. You understand? And look what all the you refuse to accept the 4% in that period from 2014 to 2019. You refuse to accept it, right? Okay. The Minister of Finance came and decided that, all right, we're going to have negotiation period from 2020 to 2022. That we started at 5%. Now, you know, these old deadwood dinosaurs and them who refuse to go home, going and tell the supporters, we're not supporting, we're not accepting 5%. 5% is the initial bargaining period for negotiation. Who knows? It could be 6%, it could be 7%, it could be 8% going up the road. But you know what we like to hear? All we want to hear is what they want to hear. Yeah, that's what they want. That's what they want to hear. When you give them 5%, when Kamala and them give them 5% in 2010, 2015, and Washington accepted that when he accepted, he fly out and go in Europe. And had the members of the PSA making noise and causing problems. Yeah? Munilal and Kamala tell them take 5% or wine to the side, like they forget. You understand? And then when you come out of office in 2015, you decide to get another 9%, so that is 14%. You ain't talking about that. But Dr. Roddy, you want to start with 5% negotiation period, and then as time go along, or they will get as time go along, or they don't want that, or we can start back and problems. But people, 2025 is a mere year away from now. Right? I think the budget this year was a damn well good budget. Who don't like it? Or they bite it. You understand? People, 2025 is on the horizon. And just what Minister Young said, and Prime Minister and everybody who putting things in place to come on stream with this Dragon Gas deal in 2 and 3 years from now. People, who do you want to run the affairs of these initiatives? The UNC with a bunch of criminals and crooks, or the People's National Movement who have stability and integrity? The choice is us, ours. We have to do the right thing, because 2025 to 2030 will be a crucial time in this country, in the economy and the well-being and the welfare of these citizens in this country. So people, do the right thing, and as Jenny say, mission on 2025, the People's National Movement. And on election night, on whatever day it's called, we're going to join with one voice and said, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall and continue to prevail. Good program, Dominic. Dr. listening.
Thank you, sir. Natalie Superville says these people really want us to take them serious. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
You're not going to call twice.
Yeah, okay. You like your licks.
And I have no time with Eric. He can say what you want. Me in business. Dominic. Colin Enberg come talking or fixing roads in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, in the parliament, and you know how he like to expatiate. Colin Himbo said, in 2021, all you're going to see massive road work.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, thank God we're getting the road fixed. Dominic, Dr. Rowley went to Tobago. He said, I drove around Tobago. I see one pothole. Dominic, he see one pothole. So you see which part got the massive road work, Dominic? Tobago. Now in 2024, they want to come back to tell me about road work again.
What happened in 2020 and 2021?
Well, Colin Himbo said we go see massive road work, Dominic.
Yeah, but what happened in 2020 and 2021? You remember something called COVID? And monies had to be monies that should have been. Where did the money come from? Where did the money come from? The government had to find money to give over 100,000 people income support and support grants. They had to find money to give people to pay their rent who, because the economy was shut down and people didn't have jobs. Did we forget that? They had to find billions to pay companies VAT refunds.
They get money from America. They get money from the European Union.
You know they got that money. You know they got money from
that nonsense, boy.
Leave it there. You know.
Go ahead.
You know. Anyway.
Only go see that election. Only watch out.
You know. Leave it there. You know. Sometimes you just come with some real garbage. Like you seem to forget. If it is, they were telling people to stay home. Stay home. So you expected them to come out and be engaging in road paving exercises, and then people with COVID, spreading the COVID among the workers? That was making any sense? Come on now, man. It seems like the only country in the world that wasn't affected by COVID was Trinidad and Tobago. Where they get money from here and they got money from the, anyway. Hello, good afternoon. Sometimes the very is really come. Good afternoon.
I would say welcome back.
Thank you.
And this gentleman called once and talked a pile of rubber, and I was going to ignore it. And then he called back again. At the end of the day, just to duck into him with one pothole in Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
Tobago has what you would call let's call it a corporation, the THA.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the ball ensuring that things like road, water, and Tobago is well maintained. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So to imply that the one pothole that Dr. Rowley referenced was a clear definition to send everything to Tobago to fix is nonsense. But you kind of expect it from people who have very little sense, and all they know to do because they don't like something is to try to pull it down and not deal with the issue. So I just have to say that.
Yes.
Going to the substantive issues of these. The budget that was delivered by Mr. Emmett was a comprehensive budget. It took me back to the days of Dr. Eric Williams' budget. And trust me, I've listened to budgets from Eric Williams when I was a child then. And I used to listen, which surprises a lot of people. That he would come and he would tell you, we're going to do X, Y, Z in next year. So and so is done, right? What is done, how we can address a comprehensive budget. And it was errors and people used to listen. So I was quite pleased when I heard the budget, because it gave me an understanding of what exactly was going on, and there were things that I was like, wait now. I just follow things. I know things are happening. All of that is really going on in the truth. I have to start paying people more attention. That is what people should be doing. Right? And to tell you how good the budget was, after every budget, there was always a conversation of what people should I get and what should I do. And there were crickets sitting there week. Nothing to do. The moment they're fighting to find something to pull down. And since there's nothing there, as normal, we fall back as well with the person alive.
We need to get past that. A budget is how you intend to spend your money, how you intend to make money, how you intend to allocate money. I don't think opposition at this point cannot tell you, okay, they said they're going to allocate $50 to education. So the NCIC, but I think that they could go to 40, so. Then they are wasting your time. The opposition is wasting people's time. If you're going to do real life, you could like her all you want. She is ill-prepared. She could barely speak. I was distressed listening to her on Friday, realizing that there are basic words she cannot pronounce. It is ridiculous. She has to represent us at the world stage. She can't do it. These people who are with her cannot do that ill-equipped. I watched Mr. Tadko on Tuesday night on, I think it was TV6, who for me actually surprisingly enough had one of the best panel discussions. And I watched him. And it was versus he's the energy, he's the shadow minister for energy. And then to do try to put it first in the nonsense and then show the time of the system. And it is so easily debunked. We have to stop letting people who like show before we ever had money, especially when we don't even know how to earn it. At this point, we are earning money. Okay? So people who like to forget, in 2019, the Minister of Roads and Transport had announced coming in December, again I pay attention, that in January of the next year, they are going to start to do Pride, there's a project for Pride. And I was like, okay, good, let's see what is happening. And I think it started off, that the next thing that happened was COVID. We are still recovering from COVID, and we are so lot of other people. And Trinidadians still be shocked that they were able to stay home and get money for nothing. We're taking it for granted. Even in America, there's the jobs, your livelihood, everything. This is closed up. The government share ensure that you as a little small business still manage to survive. Okay? And we are continuing to do that. We have to build that. People have to get up and want to work. The young people who don't want to work, if no one gets you, and they want to listen to people who said it one nonsense. There's too many opportunities out there now for everybody. I actually wish I was 21 again. I might feel like 19, but I'm not. For all of the things that they have going on that people cannot get access to. Okay. Listen and decide. This is our budget. This is how your money has to be spent. You want medication, you get medication. You get I heard the opposition leader made a comment about gas. The gas prices going up. And I was like, gas prices going up? And you have to pay more. If you are paying more, the government is paying more because it's all subsidized. We need to remove the subsidies from all the gas and everything else. Then we will see where value goes. Okay? And one of the most troublesome things in your life is people keep this in the forefront. You made a statement, a blanket statement, I pick my name, I do all kind of things, because I couldn't believe that was what she was saying. That, yes, they are back. They are going to, and I'm paraphrasing, remove the Chamber of Commerce, because in her estimation, the Chamber of Commerce was not doing the right thing and not making the right announcement. So they will be putting together their own Chamber of Commerce. Really? People listening to what that woman is saying? So that if you don't count out to what they want, then Commerce make a time. Do not play fast and loose like we did in 2010. When it was Manning wasting money. Ask yourself exactly what he was, quote unquote, wasting money on. Because you had organizations
in some of the people were employed. Employment was at nil. The unemployment rate was practically non-existent. Everybody was profiting, but you all like to listen to nonsense. Well, listen to the nonsense next year, please. They've come back with the same talking point now the damn. This administration is spending unnecessary money. I want to ask them what is unnecessary. They can't tell you. But look at what they're considering. Look at the budget. Hear how much schools are being addressed. Hear how much money is being spent on all sorts of things that you do not have to pay for. You're getting hospitals built. You're getting education across the board. It's free. You're getting training. They're telling you they consider it unnecessary. You undermine the whole agricultural system that Mr. Manning has put in place. People forget that. Right? We had the whole farm down in Shagaramas. They shut it down. When all the plants were there, they shut it down. The same way they shut down the ammonia plant. And when they couldn't sell and thief, they just did away with it. We've learned. You want to like her, but you're free to like her. I really don't care. I love my country. And she's on record as saying, she and by extension the whole party, don't love here. Their party is true. So all the community is thief. And they're not even telling you as a supporter to try to mabaga you as to what they're going to do. All they're telling you is move rowdy, black and ugly. Right? He's a pedophile, he's a this, he's a that. Anything nasty. Because it goes to the caliber of people that they are. Right? And one last thing before I go, which is probably a wrap. Sorry about that. On Friday, I looked when she was having her speech. And what struck me with the supporters in the square, not one of them even had a radio to broadcast to hear what she was saying. So they were all standing up out there in the first like sheep. She could have been in there cussing the mother, the father, and everybody else. Would have been on the riser. All the way she went in, when she come back out, yeah, that's the leader. That is the height and the depth of stupidity. I hope they take it to her. So go back, get a transcript and see what she said, and do the same thing. Choose a part of the budget if you find it too much. If you're interested in health, choose it, so then look at it and see what is done, what is being offered going forward. We will have a great year. They're going to move. Have a good day, Dominic.
Thank you. Right, let me see here. What's the time? Mr. Chance, call me back. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my boy. Oh boy, it's a hard program to get by, boy. A real popular out of like. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Dominic Kiana, you see these so-called spin doctor and economists in this countries, or these economic hitmen, them as well hypocrites now. Particularly that one who is now an editorial who I'm not calling now. That I don't want to call his name, right? Who was talking about diversification. So tell us something, Dominic, right? How long was he spent that plant? Wasn't it a farm project for the diversification process? And tell us something, do we have manufacturers for in this country? Like, I don't know, like Bryden's, Padco, Massey, the multi brothers involved in manufacturing goods for export in the Caribbean? Isn't that diversification? I am very confused. So what is the problem? I am confused on it. Do we have diversification here in this country?
We do, but apparently he's not interested in talking about it.
And when during the early days, when the first incarnation of Dr. Rolly came in, Mr. English said that he's going to reduce the prices of camera equipment, video production equipment for the film industry to boom here. Isn't that part of the diversification process? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that, Dominic?
Mm-hmm.
So this industry is that part of diversification? The FTM industry?
Yep.
So what this gentleman is talking about? And this other spin doctor in the facade. What is wrong with them? Oh, and don't forget the rapid railway project, which was supposed to reduce the pressure on the citizens.
Yep.
So, man, people like you and me don't have to wait in traffic for 6 hours and a half. They forget that conveniently. So, I want to tell you, I want to touch on that so-called situation with the where this Secretary of Finance is huffing that the government is providing with enough money.
I intend to. Yeah, I will deal with that.
You deal with that because I really think that there's a certain guy who has a speech too that he's very disappointed in that person. Very, very disappointed. Right? But what you expect some person who has had deep hatred for the PNM and what over London the PNM did for the last 20 years. These generations, these millennials and generations, these people are very ungrateful now. Right? It seems like some people don't even remember the days of Basil Panda and Mr. Manel. And what Basil Panda did to this country from 1995 to 2001. It seems like some people forget. Particularly those individuals in the late 20s and early 30s. Dominic? I don't know. And the way I was there, there's one thing that we can talk about, but I don't know. You have a lot of economic hitman. I don't have a lot of economic TikTok. Everybody put up videos. And everybody wants to be like Ian Allen. And the other one is man.
You too, sir. If you got to take on these people, listen, you're crazy, yes? Mr. Chance, you could call me back. You know, there's a lot to be said about people who offer themselves for office or hoping to get an office. But when they love to post a lot of stuff on Facebook, but when it is that you try to challenge them, they can't take it. So there's Philip Edward Alexander, right? He put up a post telling PNM supporters that what? He don't come on their page. And here he says, PNM sycophants, I don't come on your pages. Keep your belligerent, nasty ways of mine. Stay there. And when it is PNM, people respond to him in the comments. He deletes the comments, right? Brian. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dominic?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, Brian, I hear him.
Dominic, before Mr. Chance comes on, I want your listeners to understand something, and that the opposition leader made a statement that is very, very damning to investors in our country, our main investors. That is BP, Shell, EOG, and others. And don't let it pass you by, but I'm not putting it past the opposition leader. The opposition leader indicated that she wants to set up a parallel energy chamber. A parallel energy chamber. Now, all you have to understand, BP and Shell, and they have shares in this our energy chamber. I think it's headed by a tax driver. And they are an important part of our energy and our energy industry, because we depend on them for the livelihood of Trinidad and Tobago. When a person makes such a statement in the face of conglomerates like BP and Shell and the other partners, we have to be very careful that it is not an attempt to literally destroy Trinidad and Tobago and to run these companies because you're putting up you're saying something and attempting to do something that is not in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. And we have to be mindful of the things that this woman says. Sometimes Mr. Chance always says we have to listen to them. And this is one time that we have to listen to this lady because that statement did not pass the ears of certain people very, very high up in Shell and BP and other companies or members of the energy chamber. You have to be very careful that this woman is seeking. If she can't get her way, she don't care who she destroys, and by extension, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Yes, so she's taken issue with the energy chamber, basically, claiming that that they comprise of, well, she doesn't approve of who constitutes the energy chamber, and essentially she just stopped short of saying that they are PNM. Probably she finds that they're not attacking the PNM enough, and that they would have been in support of the budget to some extent, and they support what the Minister of Energy is doing and the Prime Minister with respect to the structuring of Atlantic LNG and the energy and the gas projects that are due to come on stream. So she's going to form her own parallel energy chamber should she come back into office, so that she can have an echo chamber to support her government, right? It's interesting to note that the man who was her Minister of Energy for 4 out of 5 years is inclined to post things on his Facebook page. He put up a big post the other day about some final decision that was taken by some energy company with respect to some gas in Suriname. But when Shell made the final investment decision with respect to Manatee and so on, my boy ain't post that up at all. He's not interested in that. Mr. Chance.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dominic. How are you doing, man?
I am good, and yourself?
Well, there's a time. Welcome. Yeah, you've got a good program again.
Yes.
First, I want to congratulate you for your very instructive and informative interview with John Benma on Friday. It's very good.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it shows that wherever you are, because of technology and communication technology in the world, you can contribute. Secondly, I just want to support Brian and Eric and Jenny and make the point that money allegedly that was deposited 1.5 billion US is over 10 billion TT dollars. Do that one full year. That is over 10 billion TT dollars. And that is a serious, serious thing. And like Jenny and Brian and the others, I hope that this matter must go further. The next thing I want to say is that I have heard Kamala Prasad Visefa in the parliament indicate that Trinidad and Tobago, the people suffering, they're suffering like hard, the country broke. I just want to quote, I'm not going to go into details today, but perhaps next week I will go into details. August the 20th, that's just a month and a half away. A survey done by the European Union and United Nations. They assessed people 15 years and over. And you know what they said? Most of the population of Trinidad and Tobago who are 15 years and over are saving money. You hear that? Now, if the people of Trinidad and Tobago hungry and they're starving and the country broke, you hear that? And that was a survey done by two independent institutions, the European Union and the United Nations. The 20th of August, you can fact check me. 20th of August in the Express, 20th of August 2024, just recent. I want to close by commending the government for the contribution it continues to make to the vulnerable, the poor, and the needy. The government makes a significant contribution to that cohort of people. In fact, the social welfare bill is $5.5 billion. Let me say that again. The social welfare bill is $5.5 billion. You know what the social welfare bill was under Kamala Prasad Visefa? 4.4 billion. Granted, there was an increase, and it's close to over $1 billion. So let me just close by identifying some of these areas, some of these areas that the government continues to spend the money on, and we're taking it for granted. In the area of senior citizens pension, over the last fiscal year, we paid pension to 114,242 citizens at a cost of $4,069,400,000.
Hello. Mr. Jones, let me see what's happening here.
What's that? 1,296,671. I'm giving you these details.
Yes.
There's a food support grant. You hear about the food support grant? Money spending for that. 14,971 households. That cost the government and the taxpayer $116 million. General grant, that is where you get things like household items, fridge and so on, when they have things, clothing, funeral grant and so on. 602 persons benefited from that. It cost the government over $8 million. I just wanted to give you that. I want to close with this one, because people talk about the government, one of the members talk about the government that's dealing with the needy, and particularly the disability grant. Do you know, when Kamla Prasad, the assessor, left there, with all that money available, the only area of disability was for adults, 18 years and over. Now, in 2019, I want you to hear me, I'm going to speak slowly. In 2019, your PNM government introduced what is called a disability grant for minors under 18. Cerebral palsy, almost people don't do things. Before they won't get things, they have to wait till they reach 18 years. The UNC spend all the time there. And they talk about Kama says, oh boy, you're sorry about the poor people. What did you do with the people under 18 years, Kama? Well, in 2019, this caring government led by Dr. Keith Rowley introduced a minors disability grant. They get $1,500, the others get $2,000. Last year, in terms of that additional area that we covered, it cost the government $73 million more. That minor disability grant. And that I want to submit is a very caring government, looking at all the areas and focusing on that. And as you quite rightly said, Dominic, between 2020 and 25, that is the term of this government. This government, the people who are challenged, disability, old age pension, public assistance, food, card, all the people, they didn't miss a step. They went to the bank as usual, put in the card, and they got their money, no shortage. The government continued to do that and continue to pay that support because COVID came in 2019, 2020, 2021. And the government paid every bill. I can tell you, because my sister gets old age pension, and it didn't worry. Let me close with this one too. When Kamla Prasad, the assessor, left office, there were people were getting two grants, the old age pension and NIS. But they had a ceiling of $4,500. So if you are getting your NIS of $3,000 under UNC, you will now get $1,500 as old age pension. So your total package was $4,500. They call that the ceiling.
Yes.
So they say under the UNC, your cash costs more than $4,500. What did this government do? This caring government, who they're always trying to say, they care. This government over time raised that ceiling to $5,500. And now those people are getting both old age pension and NIS. They have a $1,000 more. Let me say it again. because my sisters are beneficiary of that. She is now having $1,000 more because his feeling on the camera was $4,500. So your pension was $1,500. Under Christopher Rowley and the PNM, your honest pension side of it is now $2,500. So she's getting $1,000 more. And that is what I wanted to share this morning, Dominic, this afternoon, so that people understand that you have a caring government, a responsible government. That is my word for the describing of the budget, just like when it's your job. Very responsible, making sure that we cover our present and we are looking for the future. As I close, I know, Dominic, you mentioned the question of the possibility or the actual fact that we'll get money from 2027.
Yes.
So let me remind your listeners where that money is, and that is how the thing is, that the Dragon gas is going to give us 4.2 trillion cubic feet of gas. You hear that? 4.2 trillion cubic feet of gas. The Manatee is going to give us 2.7 trillion cubic feet of gas. And the Coquina Marican is going to give us 1 trillion cubic feet of gas. That, when you convert that into money, that is what is waiting for us from 2027 and beyond for 50 years. And the question Eric asked, who are you going to put that money in? Who are you going to put that money to run this place? They have a history of being kleptocrats. You know what kleptocrat is? Let me remind you. A kleptocrat is a government official, is a thief, a cook, a bandit, a hoodlum. And that is what a senior member of the MSG said about the UNC. Kleptocrats, that's how we describe them. McAndrew just said they're thieving money as though they invented it. Is that the direction you're going to go? Is that the direction you're going to go? When billions and even trillions of dollars could flow over the next 30 years? You have the choice. And people, be wise. Make the right choice. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Chance. And I too will close at this point in time, but I will just leave you with this. If Kevin Ramnarayan and Kamla Prasad-Bissessar had done between 2010 to 2015 what Stuart Young and Keith Rowley has been able to do between 2021 and 2024, we wouldn't need to wait till 2027 for first gas from Manatee and Dragon and Coquina Marican and the others. We would have been receiving those monies now, and the country's financial circumstance would have been much better. And all who complaining we can't get 200 US in the bank, and all who complaining about the suffering and the oppressed, you would not now be in that situation. Had they done what Keith Rowley and Stuart Young have done in the last 3 years. So instead of 2027, we would have had it probably since 2020. So we could have been enjoying it for the last 4 years. But because of their incompetence, we now have to wait another 3 years, either the first or second quarter in 2027. But understand that your government has also engaged in a restructuring of Atlantic LNG with respect to the ownership. And thanks to Keith Rowley and Stuart Young, you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, now have a larger ownership stake in Atlantic LNG. So even though come 2027, they will be processing gas that belongs to another country, right? The take that we will get from doing that would be much greater than what we would have gotten under what that latter administration did. So understand, you can't have Stuart Young doing all of the legwork and Keith Rowley doing all of the groundwork now and all of the hard work in terms of the negotiations and running to Washington and Caracas and Trinidad and Tobago and all of that. Putting things in place, establishing long-term relationships with the heads of all of these big energy corporations and so on. When we are on the cusp of what could possibly be a gas boom, and then put it in the hands of those unpatriotic bastards who are just looking for another payday to finish what they started in 2010 to 2015. And they're already licking the chops and lining up. I've told you all before. Everybody, they don't start to figure out who's going and be what and who's sitting on which board and who's sitting in cabinet and who will be high commissioner and who will be ambassadors and all of these different things. They just looking to see what money they can get and how much they can get. They're not concerned about country. As Prasad-Bissessar said, country before party, then go to hell. Go to hell. She said that. But you would never hear the Foley Dunce talking about that. Oh, Rowley said, and Rowley said nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, even though they twist it and say Rowley said the rich must get richer. Fundamental difference. But they will never quote the leader. Country before party, go to hell. That your party should come first. They don't talk that. And it's just about greed and populist policies to fool people, put us back in office, and when we start to reap the rewards of the work that is currently being done by Stuart Chung, Keith Rowley, and the PNM administration, they will give all the handouts. $500 a month to make child, certificate of comfort, maybe a little increase in pension, a little increase in food card, to keep all happy. Fool all and tell all we're going to remove VAT on 7,000 food items. What can name be 7,000 food items? It didn't work the first time. I don't know why they seem to think it will work a second time around. But everywhere else, having just come from the US, and I can tell you every time I go there, I see the prices. I make it a point to go to all of the main supermarkets, Walmart and Publix and Costco and Sam's Club. And I compare the prices to what it was the last time that I was there, and I see. So the US, where they have all the oil and all the gas, and they could print the money. Their citizens complaining about the cost of living, what they pay at the pump. And when they go to the grocery store, and the monies that they have to be paying in student debt, where it is that you have the Republican Party is constantly challenging the Biden administration, who wants to forgive student debt so people can have a little extra money in their hands to make ends meet. All of these different things, but they don't want to hear that. I'm blaming the government because the cost of living is high. But when you look at other Caribbean countries, in Barbados, where you have the great Mia Mottley, cost of living is 16% higher in Barbados than it is in Trinidad, but Ralph Maraj wouldn't talk about them things. They wouldn't talk about that. But what is government doing the worst? And they're oppressing people and so on. You didn't see oppression yet. Go ahead. But I'm going to tell them, let them go ahead and put God out of the collective thoughts and put these people back in 2025. I don't want to hear none of them. When you see ministers start to get fired, and every Monday morning you're reading an article about bag of money and kickback and who thief and what, or surely a blasted mouth. Because you know what your philosophy is now, the thief between 2010, but they do. So as long as they do, and it's okay for them to thief. And don't complain about corruption. When it is you all make that mistake, and you see people in Tobago, I think not enough attention is being paid to Tobago. Right? Because I see the comments that some of those persons who supported the TPP make in the different groups. So let us not underestimate that we could win seats in Trinidad, and then all it takes is for one of the two seats in Tobago to make a mistake, and that is it. Right? So let us not underestimate Tobago. And the same way that Persad Bissessar and the UNC choose to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the wrongs that take place in Tobago under this current THA administration. It's the same thing they're doing with OWTU and Patriotic. Right? Anybody that they feel could be of strategic importance to them in getting back into office, they hush them out. They have nothing to say. Allow wrongdoing to take place. No comment. Only attacking the PNM. Allowing these people to get away with murder and wrongdoing just so that they could get back into office tells you something. As Dr. Rowley would say, them is people to watch. And we're keeping a close eye on all of them. So folks, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, the rest of your weekend. May your week be productive. And God's willing, we will chat again on Tuesday morning, 6:30 a.m. Right? So I'm going for today.